Hello everyone, it's Jamal Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. Let me make sure I'm live. This one is not going to be long, guys, because I had another video in mind completely. This was not the video that I was going to do. And perhaps I should wait before doing this video, but fuck it, I'm doing this video. Let me make sure my sound is up first. If you're gonna go after somebody, at the very least, make sure people can hear when you're going after somebody. And I'm trying to moderate myself in going after them because I'm aware now of saying, yeah, you're going after somebody. Look, I don't mind. I've made a distinction from the standpoint of being on the left. Like, I understand that you can be on the left and you can have this idea on where you want things to be. Like, this is what I want the world to look like. And, you know, if all these lefties, all of these guys line up in the same spot, says yes. For all intents and purposes, the world, I would prefer the world to look a little bit like this. And all of these people line up on that particular side of the street saying that, yes, this is the world that I want. Within that group of this is the world that I want, you have this disparity of how do we get this particular world? How do we get it? Yes, everybody wants ponies and rainbows and unicorns, and they want to wake up in the morning and sniff flowers and run through the dandelions. How do you get that particular world? And that's where you get disagreement. Now, yes, you have disagreement along the political spectrum, but in this case, I'm talking specifically about disagreements on the left. And you have people bumping heads. You have some people saying you should vote Hillary Clinton. You have other people saying that is bullshit and that's not going to get you to where you need to go. You have some people saying, hey, if a politician is offering one concentration camp less, you need to jump on that one concentration camp less. You have all sorts of ideas. Now, ultimately, they may end up or want to end up with this kind of dandelions and running through the lilies and all this other stuff. But I always make this argument of it's like, you know, if we keep straight on this road, you get to the moon. Some people have different ideas on how they get to that particular world that they want to get to, even though they may want a similar world. Now, I bring this up to say that this scenario creates a situation where lefties end up hitting lefties. Lefties hit lefties. Lefties sucker punch lefties. Now, this is not necessarily bad per se. I mean, you have this thing where you're working out the differences that you guys have, and in working out the differences that you guys have, sometimes you're going to have disagreements and trying to work those things out. I care more about whether or not the people are being earnest in their disagreements. And even with people being earnest in those disagreements, sometimes you get heated and all this other stuff. But long story short, it is one thing to have a substantive disagreement with somebody. It's one thing to say, I fundamentally disagree with the way you're trying to go after the thing that you're trying to go after. It is another thing for that disagreement to be shallow, smearing propaganda. Like where it's almost like it lacks context, or it lacks getting across what was being said, in as much as just kind of piling on to what somebody else said. This guy said that person is this, so I don't know this guy. I'm talking about the actual reality of something, not necessarily somebody just piling on to a particular idea. I'm talking about a substantive understanding of what the people were talking about before making a goddamn opinion on it. Particularly when it just seems to be piling on an opinion, and it's not even that good of an opinion to start off with. There's a guy, I got to be honest, I looked at the video and was like, why is this kid ragging on Jimmy Dore and Caitlin Johnston? But nevertheless, there's a child rags on Caitlin Johnston and Jimmy Dore. Let's take a look at what he says. Shout out to Bullshit Man for flagging this. Thank you, Bullshit Man. Bullshit Man doesn't consider himself a lefty. But Bullshit Man is not an American. And so for all, and I don't misunderstand what I mean. What I mean by that is, if Bullshit Man was in America, Bullshit Man would be a lefty. Bullshit Man is in another country, and their government is not as batshit crazy as our government. So what they consider to be the left is in a different political spectrum. But whatever. Whether Bullshit Man considered himself a lefty or not is kind of besides the point. Thank you for flagging this particular video. Let's watch it. Progressive voice, at least that's what he calls himself. Let's put it in quotes. Progressive voice, because It's just his voice. Ragging on Caitlin Johnston and Jimmy Dore. And let's see if what he's saying has any legitimacy to it at all. I'm going to clue you in and say it does not. And let's give a little bit more context than this kind of weird, shallow, you know, pathetically shallow version of the world that he's giving on this. Let's take a look.
You're a Putin apologist, and that's what people call Dore.
And by the way, he took issue, or his issue here was that Jimmy Dore brought Caitlin Johnston on. That was his issue. I don't think that Jimmy Dore should have brought Caitlin Johnston onto the show. I mean, she's like a conspiracy theorist. I mean, blah, 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 blah. Let's listen to what's being said. Let's listen to his opinion. My contention is that it is pathetically shallow. And let's talk about the reality of what Jimmy Dore and Caitlin Johnston were talking about. And let's even talk about the reality of what he himself is talking about, because I don't know how much he knows about it. Let's take a listen, though. He calls himself Progressive Voice. Let's hear him out.
Made a video with Caitlin Johnstone, who's basically this person who is this kind of, you know, underground left-wing journalist, I guess you would put it. And she's someone who had pushed the idea of allying with Mike Cernovich and people like Mike Cernovich. It seems to be that a lot of the kind of small...
That's true, by the way. That's true. But you need to add more to that. Like, if you're going to be honest and you're going to give a story like this, and look, you know my thing is always context. If you're going to be honest and you're going to say she wanted to ally with Cernovich and some of these other people, fair enough. But wanted to ally with them, why? I mean, if you're saying two things that don't really make sense, unless you add the context to make it make sense. This person is a left-wing journalist. Okay, she's a left-wing journalist. Great. Now, this left-wing journalist wants to ally with Mike Cernovich. Now, I don't even know how many people know who Mike Cernovich is. I didn't even know who Mike Cernovich was until several months ago with these guys, where this became this kind of big huffapaloo with this faction of the left that flipped out hysterically over her putting this forward. I find this... Look, the context here is that she wanted to ally with some of these groups with the idea of anti-establishment taking on the system itself. Meaning you as an individual, you as just a lefty in your little band of leftism or whatever you want to call it, is not enough. There is not enough of you. If there are situations where you as a person can interact with somebody who also has your particular philosophy on a particular issue, a particular topic, then you can ally with that person on that particular topic. It doesn't mean that you're going to be all of a sudden anti-Semitic and racist and all this other stuff. If there is somebody on the right who says, I want to get rid of war, then me on the left who says, I also want to get rid of war, it makes perfect sense to me to say, let's join forces on this thing of getting rid of war. If that same person on the right says he wants to slap an immigrant, then yes, I don't need to participate in that. And yes, I will probably denounce that person for saying so. I will be making bad videos on my show about that person saying they want to slap an immigrant. The point that Caitlin Johnston was getting at, the larger point. I mean, I don't know if you read the article, but if you read the article that she was talking about with this, people who were being hysterical about her putting this forward, full well missed the entire point of the article, just like this particular piece. Now, her point was, if you have people who are on other political spectrums who agree with you on a particular point, then you should ally with those people who are with you on that particular point. It doesn't mean that you're going to agree with everything that they say. There's nobody that I agree with everything that they say. I may agree with this kid with a lot of the stuff that he comes up with. On this, I do not. This is insane. This is just people piling on to propaganda without getting the full context of what was being said in the piece that she wrote about this. In fact, all those people who are acting like hysterical chickens over this, oh my gosh, she's talking about the lie with the right. For what? You're saying two things that doesn't make sense. If she is indeed a left-wing journalist, that gives this kind of connotation of what she believes in and what she's pushing for, then if all of a sudden you're going to add Chernovich into this, then you need to explain how this person who you just defined as being a left-wing journalist is interacting with this person who's supposed to be this right-wing fanatic. What's the intermediary point? What's her reasoning? What's her point? What is she getting at when she's saying this? She's talking about stopping war. What are you talking about in this video? She's literally saying, if you can ally with certain people in order to get your aims accomplished, you should ally with those people to get those aims accomplished. Robert McNamara was one of the constructors of the systems that they were using for war, either for the Vietnam War and going all the way back to World War II. Robert McNamara set up bombing raids in which thousands, hundreds of thousands of people were killed in some of those bombing raids. Vietnamese, I think it was like over 1 million people died in the Vietnam War. I think it was like 2 million people that got killed in that war. He was the architect of some of the war plans for those things. Now, Robert McNamara, as he's gotten older, he's come to this conclusion of, yeah, those wars probably shouldn't have happened. Those wars probably shouldn't have happened. Coming to this realization that if you can talk and engage with the people who you're interacting with, sometimes you guys just have a fundamentally different way of looking at the world. And getting that across and trying to understand the ways in which those people are looking at the world, you may come to a different conclusion as opposed to, I'm going to shoot you in the face or I'm going to cut your head off. He changed. He came to a different conclusion. Now, if Robert McNamara and I met, and McNamara has said, look, we need to find a way to stop war. I don't necessarily like what Robert McNamara did, but guess what? I am going to work with him to find a way to stop war. If that means bringing him on my show to have a conversation about it, we can air this stuff, I'm going to do that. Now, somebody can look at that and says, oh my God, he's working with Robert McNamara, the guy who was instrumental in the Vietnam War, and the guy who's supposed to, you know, like flipped out because he couldn't deal with the pressure and all this other stuff. The point that we're getting at, the point that I've made this point in the past. If you have the capacity to interact with somebody who you may disagree with on a host of issues, but on a specific issue, then you work together on that specific issue. That's her point. That was the entirety of her point. That was the point that people completely missed. It just jumped to the name of Chernovich. They completely and entirely, fundamentally, whether on purpose or not, missed her point. Let's let quote-unquote progressive voice finish what he's saying.
Smaller left-wing channels and journalists and just smaller audiences seem to have this just really like almost Alex Jones level type of shit going on. So I'm really disappointed that Jimmy Dore did this video. I was really, you know, surprised. I was like, what are you doing? This type of shit is just ridiculous. And
that part's right. That part's right. This type of shit is ridiculous. I agree. I told you, man, we will find some agreement at some point. I agree. This video that's being made that we're reviewing right now is completely ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous. You're literally making a video calling somebody who talked about getting rid of war and joining together on issues of war. You're saying that her wanting to do that, if you're dealing with somebody on the right, is ridiculous. Look, I disagree with Rand Paul on a host of issues. Completely disagree with Rand Paul on a host of issues. I thought it was slightly funny when Rand Paul got beat up by his neighbor. That's how much I dislike Rand Paul, and that's how much I disagree with him. That somebody physically assaulted him made me chuckle slightly. Now, it's not that I want people beating up Rand Paul. That's not what it is at all. Rand Paul would get up there and believe that it's perfectly okay to give massive tax cuts while at the same token gutting healthcare for other human beings, people who actually need that healthcare. He's perfectly okay with this idea of private property and to a fanatical extent, gutting the government, gutting services in order to give his plutocrats millions and billions more dollars. That's Rand Paul. When Rand Paul was sitting on the floor of Congress trying to force them to do a vote for the military authorization bill, guess who was on Rand Paul's side and thought Rand Paul was fucking awesome? I was. I don't like us bombing other countries. I don't like the fact that we're going into one country after the next, killing civilians in those countries. We've killed thousands of innocent civilians. That's not including the dictatorships that we've put into. That's not including the countries that we've supported, like Saudi Arabia, as they murder and kill Yemenis. Now, if Rand Paul is against war, if Rand Paul is against putting people in prison for drugs, guess who's going to be beside Rand Paul in that speech or in that rally, standing side by side with Rand Paul as he tries to stop them putting people in prison for drugs, or as he tries to stop the United States from bombing one country after the next? I am. That's going to be me. I'm going to be standing there right there beside him saying, on this particular issue, on this specific point, Rand Paul is perfectly right. When Rand Paul is talking about gutting healthcare, I will be on the other side of that saying Rand Paul is a fucking asshole. It is having the mental and intellectual context and honesty to be able to look at a situation and say, in this particular point, I agree. On this other point, I don't. Apparently, he doesn't have that capacity. Let's hear him finish.
You know, I talked about it, and so a lot of people are going to be really angry at this video who are just rabid Jimmy Dore fans or rabid, you know, crazy left-wingers who are just conspiracy theorists at this point. Are going to be mad, but I don't give a shit. So this is the truth of what happened, and don't trust Caitlyn at all for anything whatsoever.
And
yeah, I kind of don't know what that means. I kind of don't know what that means. She's a conspiracy theorist at this point. Conspiracy theorist about what? What are you talking about? Well, look, what I do know is when the big huffapaloo happened before, where she was like, look, you guys, if you get the capacity to interact with the right wing on specific issues, take that particular point. And I agree with that. I think she's right. I think she's perfectly right. I think if you're going to get anything accomplished in politics, you're going to need this kind of blending over or something in the sense of like a new center, whatever that new center is. I have supporters, like Trump supporters, on my page who look at my videos because I try to be honest in regards to what I regard as being the right or the left or anything in between. Is what it is. She's not necessarily crazy on this point that right-wingers, some, don't like this idea of us wasting money into war. Now, yeah, we may bump heads on other stuff when we get into this idea of the purpose of government and services and access for people and individuals and everything else. But that's not really her point. This is a magnificent attempt at completely missing her point. Completely missing her point. There can be things that you disagree with her on, fair enough. And if you want to take shots at her, fair enough. Everybody's fair game in this sense. I can even see if you're having this kind of substantive debate about whatever, fair enough. But ultimately, this is, for all intents and purposes, just a hit video. And it's a hit video that doesn't seem to nail down what it is that people like for example, it's one thing if you say I disagree with her on XYZ and this is why I disagree with her on XYZ, taking it to the level of, yeah, I was upset that Jimmy Dore brought her on the show because she's like a conspiracy theorist. Yeah, well, she's writing a book, and the biggest issue that you seem to have with her, at least in this particular case, is Chernovich, without necessarily explaining why she brought up Chernovich in the first place. I'm just saying, it doesn't make sense. The link that's being made doesn't necessarily make sense until you explain the context of it. This flaming right-winger who's all the way to the left. I'm sorry, this left-winger who's supposedly insane and is pushing conspiracy theories like she's Alex Jones, is interacting with this right-winger, this rabid right-winger who people consider racist and everything else. What's the disconnect? Why that doesn't make sense? Oh, she wants to get rid of war, so in issues with this guy doesn't necessarily, or issues that you yourself may agree with him on, she's saying that you should work together in those cases. For instance, like war, issues of war. Maybe we shouldn't be bombing other countries. That makes sense to me. That makes sense to me. Apparently to him, not so much. But to me, this particular thing makes sense. I'm going to try to find the original article that Johnston wrote so you can see it for yourself. And Bullshit Man released this part. So let's hear him out. Let's finish this part. Because they actually did talk about this, by the way. The thing that they talked about was we were trying to do this with this idea of contesting war. If you have the right, and some people on the right, like the Rand Paul types, don't like this idea of us wasting money going into other countries, killing and bombing and everything else. If you find commonality with those people on those issues, are you saying that you should just ignore the fact that there's commonality on a particular issue and just not get anything done on that issue if the opportunity presents itself to get something done on that issue? I'm just saying, that doesn't make sense. Let's let them two talk it out. Jimmy Dore, Caitlin Johnston, addressing this idea of her being a quote-unquote conspiracy theory, and even bringing up this idea of what they were talking about and what she meant when she was talking about Chernovich. Let's let her explain it. And once again, Bullshit Man, thank you for flagging us. Let's keep going.
And I've been smeared. I've been called everything in the book, and their favorite thing is to call you, oh, you're a Putin bot, you're a Putin apologist. And that's what people call me. They'll call me Alex Jones, or they'll call me Breitbart. You had this big idea to hook up with people on the right to try to work to end war. And the way I heard people talk about it was they were acting like you wanted to team up with people on the right to start a fucking war, which you were actually trying to do the exact opposite.
So there are a lot of people who are really angry about the wars. And I just felt like it was with me saying, look, I don't mind if you retweet my stuff. I don't mind if you take it out into the world or whatever. Like, you know, just because you have right-wing views on other issues, on this one issue we line up, and I'm willing to go with you on that. Simply, you know, in having some social media overlap. But you would have thought I had, you know, dressed up as Adolf Hitler himself.
Yeah, people lost their mind over this. People lost their mind over this. I thought this was one of the stupidest fake outrages that took place. And apparently, this kid does also. So, there's that. There's that. There was a video, and just to give a larger context on this, and I'm not going to keep this one too long. I don't know his name. He hit me up and he was like, "Hey, can we do a show together?" I had somewhat of a bad impression early on, in which case I chose not to get involved with that. I think it was something to do with Justice Democrats or something like that, where he flipped out and he just kind of took on the ideas of who it was, like Young Turks or something like that. He just completely took on their ideas and started attacking Debbie. And it's like, even if it just didn't seem like he had ideas of his own, let's put it that way. It seems like he was full on board into this thing of other people are dumping ideas into my head, and that wasn't. A, you attack Debbie. B, you're attacking Jimmy Dore. C, you're attacking Caitlin Johnston. And the things that you're attacking them on are so shallow. Like, it's... If the devil himself, for whatever reason, said, look, I don't think they should be putting human beings in prison for smoking pot, am I supposed to tell the devil to go fuck himself? Or am I supposed to say, I agree with you, I don't think they should be putting people in prison for smoking pot? So, how can I work with you on this specific issue of stopping kids from being put in prison or stopping people from being put in prison for smoking a plant? It makes all the sense in the world to me to work on specific issues if you can agree with those issues. On other issues, no, not so much. If you're going to be hateful, if you're going to be racist, if you're going to be a bigot, if you're going to do things that I think is going to go against my value system, then yes, we're going to be enemies. But in the specific issues that I think we agree, then we agree. This makes all the sense in the world to me. I don't understand why other people look at this and flip out. And I remember even when that article first came out, and you're reading the article and you're like, she's literally saying, if you're working with somebody in a degree that you're working with somebody, meaning if you agree with this person on this point, it would be insane to spur their advances on this specific point. Like, that, it just seems bizarre to me. I remember Rand Paul was having this conversation where it wasn't before Congress, he was giving a speech or something. And he was making this point of, you know, Obama was this kind of flaming pot smoker. Man was, you know, flamboyant pot smoker. And what would it have been like if he had been locked up early on in his life, and what if he had been put in a cage? And certainly he can understand that he was able to still be president of the United States in many respects, despite the pot stuff, or maybe even because of the pot stuff. What would the world have been like, and what would he have been like if he had gotten locked up and thrown into a cage before he ever got to the point of getting into school and everything else? I agree with him on that point. I agree with him. I agree with him on the point of us not bombing other countries and going into other countries and invading other countries. I agree with him on those points. Am I supposed to completely forget the fact and ignore the fact that I agree with him on certain points? You can do both. You can do both. It's called being a fucking human being. You can look at one person and say, this person has various facets to their personality, and I agree with him on this and this, but I completely disagree with him on the other stuff. So it takes a little bit of it's a little bit of intellectual honesty. It's a little bit of being able to separate wheat from chaff, to say that on this I agree, on this I don't. But putting a knife in Dore, and put a knife in Caitlin Johnston, and even putting a knife in Debbie at that one point, a massive turnoff. That's a massive turnoff. And it's like progressive voice. I love the fact he calls himself progressive voice. That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. Brom SO1, rational cynic, absolutely. He knew the job was dangerous when he took it. Jennifer Collins, Seth Rich was murdered by who is the question. I don't think this particular conspiracy theory is all that far-fetched. Billions of dollars at stake. Thousands die abroad every day. Here's the thing. The Seth Rich thing to me was unnecessarily overly complicated. So if you make the argument that was it possible that somebody who worked at the DNC released information about the DNC, then I would say yes. That makes perfect sense to me. If you jump the shark from that and say he was murdered by the DNC because of XYZ, then yeah, at that point you've lost pretty much a majority of the people who you're talking to. One makes sense because one is plausible. One is possible. I mean, the person had access and opportunity and potentially inclination to do so. So that part makes sense to me. Saying he was murdered adds a level of something to it that is difficult to back up. That's all. So but that being said, the argument that people make is that's a conspiracy theory. It's like, what? It's a conspiracy theory that somebody worked for the DNC who had access to files that the DNC might have released information about the DNC. That's a conspiracy theory. Okay. Now, if you add in the fact that he was killed, that's different. But from the left, I don't even think you need to add that part in. It's irrelevant to the conversation. Is it possible that somebody offed him? Yes. If he released those files, would the police need to investigate that particular angle? Well, yeah. If he released those files, then there would be this kind of incentive to off him, or at the very least there would be a motive in order to off him. So yeah, from the police standpoint, from the standpoint of somebody doing an investigation, yeah. But from the political context of this, that part never even needs to be, that's not a stone that needs to be lifted. I think the argument that people were making was this was a leak and it was not a hack. And so they were looking for things to back up the idea that this was a leak as opposed to a hack. Fair enough. And I think a lot of people gravitated and jumped on Seth Rich for this. Again, fair enough. But I gotta be honest though, that's kind of besides the point. If part of the reason that I did the video the other day, kind of making this point that when people want to say things are conspiracy theories and everything else, ultimately what they're talking about is they're not taking the mainstream narrative of events. Mainstream news says this. A bunch of stenographers come out and say the government says this. This is a government line. A bunch of other people look at it and say, hey, well, the government said this. The government doesn't lie. The government is telling me the truth. That's mainstream. Now, somebody else looks at this and says, wait a minute, that doesn't really make sense. I mean, that doesn't make sense at all. There's an alternative theory of this case. Now, all of the theories are alternative. All of them are relative to one another. There is no, this is the definitive word of God. All of this stuff is going to be ambiguous to some degree. If you don't have the capacity to look at this stuff and say all of this stuff is ambiguous, meaning that's a flat fact. If you weren't necessarily there and you weren't necessarily interacting with it, then yes, it's ambiguous. Just by definition, it's always going to be somewhat ambiguous. There is a story that's delineated, that is the government's line, and that's the media's line, and that's the line that they put out saying, this is the narrative of events that we're going along with as being our narrative of events. Now, some people have the intellectual fortitude to look at that and say, that sounds bogus or that sounds ridiculous. Now, in the old days, it was few and far between when people said that. You had like 70% of the public who looked at the government with being a certain legitimacy. Well, that legitimacy over time has faded, dramatically so. So media has like a 15% approval rating. You have politicians with like a 10% approval rating. You have the president of the United States, I think it was like a 30% approval rate. All of the institutions that were in place that is supposed to be this bellwether on, okay, this is true, this is legitimate, these people have on clothes, these people are the bright people in the room who are telling us what's right, the government is looking out for our best interests. None of this stuff is believed anymore. These people are bought. People understand that the reality itself is being shaped by monetary factors, not by the reality of the situation itself. So it's not insane. In fact, it makes perfect sense for somebody to look at the world and say, I don't believe this. I think you all are lying to me. You guys have a track record of lying to me. You're lying to me for specific reasons and specific ends. It is not insane for people to look at the world and question the way the world is. Nor is it insane for people to pull together things to say, if I don't trust you, then what do I put my hands on and where do I put my feet on the ground? And you have this situation where people look towards alternative sources of information. Some legit, some not so much. But the reason that people look for something else is because of the illegitimacy of mainstream. That's why. I mean, you can say whatever you want talking about the womanist conspiracy theory and everything else. All of these stories are relative to one another. You can't necessarily say that one is the word of God, and there's no way for you to know. You can disagree with her, fair enough. I would need to know exactly what you disagree with her on, but the last thing you should be doing is coming on putting a knife in her based on, you know, this non-contextual hullabaloo that took place like almost half a year ago. I mean, shit, man. Yeah. It's just fucking ridiculous. That kid is like Chink's mini-me. Same haircut, dresses the same, goes to absurd lengths to defend Chink and TYT. Does he now? Now, I did... My knowledge of him starts with Justice Democrats. And Debbie came out with a video essentially saying, like, what the... You know, it's like, this is insane. You guys don't need to get involved in this, etc., etc. Debbie had her feelings about it. And I remember he started off not being clear on what to think. Cal made his hit video, talking about get the fuck out of the way and all this other stuff. And he comes out and attacks Debbie. He's like, I got my marching orders from TYT. Now I'm just going to attack Debbie because they're putting stuff in my head and I need to just verbalize whatever they're putting in my head. That was the first fail. It's one thing if you have a perspective of stuff, and it's one thing if you're getting across that particular perspective and that perspective comes from you. Everybody, to some degree, is influenced by the stuff that's around them, fair enough, but that influence seemed to be completely just direct. I mean, even people who wanted to give Justice Democrats a chance did not like Cal flipping out in the way that Cal flipped out. If I remember correctly, he had no issue with it. He had no issue at all. This Joe guy is fucking hilarious, and CTR hiring again. Who is CTR? It's more than a killing. Imperialism drains money from social programs. Yvonne Legolas. Yes, that's true. That's true. I mean, I know I say killing, but I say killing from the standpoint of we're using our resources and armaments in order to injure and hurt people abroad. And yeah, it does drain resources from the country itself. So yeah. Jamal is just mad this kid has more subscribers. Jay Scott. No, Jay. I don't like, he's putting a knife in two people. And what he's putting a knife in two people on was some of the most ridiculous hysterics that you could come across. You write an entire article, and the entirety of the article boils down to, on the cases where you can interact with the right, you should interact with the right. That's the crux of the article. I mean, mind you, it was, I forget how long it was, but for all intents and purposes, her argument would boil down to, in cases where you can interact with the right, you should interact with the right on these issues. She pulled a name out of a hat, Chernovich. And I think she made the point that the reason why she used Chernovich because he was one of the first people who subscribed, or he sent her something, but whatever it was, it just so happens that he was a person that was in her queue where she had the idea for the story, in which case that's the person who came on the story. As somebody who used to write and somebody who does videos, yeah, you come across shit and you bring shit up in your videos that you interact with outside of the fact that you're doing a video. So it's not necessarily insane to me that she brings up Chernovich. Chernovich just so happens to be somewhat of a disgusting character. He just so happens to be a disgusting character. But him being somewhat of a disgusting figure kind of misses the point. If there are issues on the left and the right that you guys can get along with, then get along. That was the entire of her point. I don't understand why that point is so difficult for people to get. I honestly don't. I love this interview. They were both great. Angel Tips, they were both great. And speaking of them both being great, what's her name? Caitlin Johnston is going to be on my show on Tuesday. So the quote-unquote conspiracy theorist is going to be here live. I think she's going to be at 9 p.m. So it should be good. It should be damn good. Jamal, you forgot to change your title. At least that's what I saw when you shared this to Facebook. You forgot to change the title. What do you mean? The progressive voice, pathetically shallow smear against Jimmy Dore and Caitlin Johnston? It was something else? Reach beyond your grasp, speed beyond color. She kind of looks like the kid from The Mask with Cher. That's not a... Unless you guys are talking about something else. Jamal needs to look up David Brock and correct the record. Media matters, move on, etc. I guess. What are you talking about, Bob? But the problem with progressive voice is because he's a child, 16 years old, lack nuance, not enough political knowledge, and wouldn't even know what the human condition is. Rob, Illinois. Thanks, Rob. I appreciate it. Yeah, I didn't know how old he was. And it was like, why is this kid shafting Dore and Caitlin Johnston? That's the only thing I could think of when I saw the video. I was like, what the hell? Yeah, dude, you shouldn't call yourself progressive voice. It did put a knife in progressives in this way, in a shallow way. That kid would destroy Jamal in the debate. Jay Scott, that's awesome. I'm glad you think so, Jay. I'm glad you think so. Rob, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thank you, Rob. Thank you. I appreciate it. Justin Burden, his main demand is to not side with certain people for any reason whatsoever and to not listen to anyone who suggests otherwise for any reason. It's extreme tribalism. For what benefit? I have no idea. Not to mention that, I think the thing for me is she's talking about anti-war. Like this is just a bizarre thing to attack somebody on. And whether he realizes it or not, Jimmy Dore is far more loved than, like, there are more people who really like Jimmy Dore. He may call them rabid fans, whatever you want to call them, but they find themselves having an affinity with Dore far more than him. I mean, nobody even knows who he is. So it's just a weird thing. As somebody who has enjoyed Caitlin Johnston's writing, which I do, I think my audience was like, hey, dude, you need to check her out. This is when I first started the channel. And this kind of, I call it punchy writing style because that's kind of what it is. It's just this, it's strange. It's political, a side of emotion, and yet it can be pretty stinging in the way that she would go about a subject. I don't have to agree with everything I read, if that makes sense. I don't need to agree with each and every point that a person makes. I think sane progressive is fucking awesome. I don't necessarily agree with everything Sane says. Same thing with Caitlin, same thing with Dore, same thing with everybody else. They're people. They're not necessarily going to be everything that you want them to be. They're not going to be many versions of you. I am bright enough to know, though, that I could be wrong. And I'm also bright enough to know that there are things that I may think is true that's not true. There may be things that I think are wrong that are true, etc. The world is so unambiguous. The world is not this fixed, defined place that people try to make it out to be, particularly in the media and so forth. It is somewhat ambiguous. I think you should be very careful calling somebody a conspiracy theorist, particularly when that person is in your sandbox. Now, he may want to create a distinction between who he is and who she is. Fair enough. He may want to create a distinction between who he is and who Jimmy Dore is. Fair enough. Fair enough. You probably should not use the term progressive voice as if you're representing the progressive voice. If that's true, But it is what it is, man. To each his own. I massively disagree with this. And good job, bullshit man, flagging this. Good job. Caitlin is one of my favorite writers. She's a damn good writer. I haven't read her book yet, but she's a damn good writer. You say our foreign policy. Dale Chomsky, if we can't approach the world with the nuance, we're lost. Yes, agreed. Black and white thinking only helps the status quo. It keeps us atomized. Dale Chomsky, yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. Lori Ald, if he supports Justice Democrats, he's fucking lost. Stephen Colbert 5. Joe Teresa, the botched robbery assumption is a conspiracy theory. It's like one issue where there are huge numbers of issues that make up our foreign policy. CTR now pushes Bernie Sanders. Oh, Bernie Sanders to correct the record. It's all one big thing. All right, Bob, I need to check that one out. Correct the record is now supporting Sanders. Is that what you're saying? Well, actually, that would make sense, I guess, seeing as he's essentially towing water at this point. I'll check it out, Bob. I hope you're wrong, but considering what's been taking place, probably not. Scott Sanders Jr. is fucking lost. Terry J. Progressives don't bully, make fun of them, give substantive arguments. Yes, Terry. Now, for sake of mine, Terry was one of the people that I wanted to call in because Terry had issues with one of the items that I did about Sanders. So, Terry, I've sent you my number. If you want to call in and have that conversation, feel free to call in to have that conversation. Feel free. Once you go buff Bernie, you don't go back. I have no idea what that means, Badger Damon. I have no idea what that means. TYT are all hateful people. I don't think I'm all hateful people. I don't think Dore is hateful. Jerry Jarvis. Conspiracy theorist was not made up by the CIA. It was a go-to label to be used. That's far different than creating the term. Well, the point of the term was to put down what people are saying. It was in order to kind of diffuse something, some rhetoric. It was this kind of thought control system. We're going to call this a conspiracy theory, and we're going to use public pressure in order to silence the debate on a particular topic, whether or not the debate needs to be silenced or not. Meaning, the topic can be perfectly right. They will still use the term conspiracy theory to try to tamp down the capacity for somebody to actually have the conversation. So, I mean, the usage of the term, if you're going to use that term, you need to be very specific about it. So, but in this case, yeah, using that term to hit another lefty is frowned upon, to say the least. It's totally frowned upon. The intelligence agencies are telling the truth. On the 15th anniversary of Saddam had weapons of mass destruction is a disgusting conspiracy theory. Yeah, that's the other part. The weapons of mass destruction, that was a conspiracy theory put out by all the newspapers. Golf Tonka was a conspiracy theory put out by all newspapers. The thing where the CIA was talking about bombing somewhere in Florida in order to tie it to Cubans, I guess that's also a conspiracy theory. Like, these are things that actually took place, what the U.S. government was planning. Putting a sticker on the side of a plane to make it look like Saddam Hussein has shot down the plane. Again, all of this stuff is stuff that the United States does, creating revolutions in other countries and pretending as if our hands are clean on it. Hillary Clinton lying about Honduras. I mean, either you believe that everything that you're told is true, which come on, certainly. I don't know who at this point would fully believe that. And then the question becomes, okay, what do you believe that other people don't? Meaning, what has mainstream media told you that you yourself broke away from within regards to your belief system? That will be a conspiracy theory. Like, I'm trying to get a point this across. It's like calling somebody a terrorist. Terrorist is a relative term. We don't necessarily like this particular thing. That guy is doing something we don't like. So from the standpoint of us, that guy is a terrorist. Well, the United States bombing other countries is terrorism. It's literally an act of terrorism. If you're talking to the other country that's being bombed. If you talk to the United States, this is freedom. We're pushing freedom. A lot of these terms are relative to one another. It's not an absolute. It's not a word of God. There is no such thing as the absolute truth in regards to a story. There's no way, there's no capacity for you to know whether something is true or not. So, what is this? Bamboo Sticky Rice. Hey, bro, I really love your show. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Bamboo Sticky Rice. And I love your name. I love the name. Bamboo Sticky Rice. Thank you, man. Guys, I appreciate the super cash. It helps. I'm doing my best to expand this channel. And so getting interviews, in some cases trying to go to locations and stuff like that. And so you guys are immensely appreciated. One of the large parts of the show is interacting with the audience. Once I give my spiel, like maybe the first 15 minutes, at that point it's just audience interaction, audience participation. I always put it from the standpoint of, if you're going to say something, and you're going to have a platform like this, meaning you're going to have something where you're going to put your ideas out and opinions out, your audience may have feelings about the things that you're saying. So it's not like you're standing in a vacuum and you're never seeing anybody. The audience is there. The audience can either agree or disagree. And as you all know, my audience disagrees with me a lot. My audience has no issue saying that, dude, we think your head is in your ass. So there's that. There's that. L'Oreal Jamal, you're missing the Ah, you are too, man. Thank you. Tom Hartman, the grand standard, that's for sure. Oh man, yes, I have to be honest, some of this stuff hurts, man. I used to love Tom Hartman's show. He was one of the people that brought me to my political awareness. I don't dislike Tom Hartman. I think Tom Hartman tries to be earnest. I honestly think he tries to be earnest. Problem is, Tom Hartman is just a Democrat. Doesn't matter who the Democrats run, Tom Hartman would always vote for that particular Democrat. Means his perspective is always a particular way. The catch is, he is one of the brightest people you would ever come across, with a massive historical context to the stuff that he's saying. So he has a gravity about whatever he's talking about. But by the same token, Tom Hartman is still just a Democrat. Like, so at the end of the day, he would say all this lefty stuff, but at the end of the day, he's voting for whoever random Democrat they're putting up. So I like the guy, but man, it hurts when he pushes those things. Lisa Hauserman, Jamal, I'm almost at the start because I was late. This guy was horrid about Debbie. Yes, he was. He doesn't know the difference between a false flag and something that didn't happen. Yeah, I stopped watching Tom Hartman when he started doing all those silly left-right debates. Yeah, when he went after Debbie, he lost me. Yeah, he lost me. Like immediately when he went after Debbie. And look, it's not... You can disagree with Debbie, and you can disagree with anybody. You can disagree with Dore, you can disagree with me. And even in those disagreements, you walk away saying, I disagree with this person on this particular point, but the world is good. I still recognize the person as being on my side. It was the way I think he went after Debbie that left a bad impression with me, and that bad impression has stayed with me since. I don't like this attack. I don't like this particular attack. I don't like the, and I don't think I've said anything horrendous in this particular video. I think I've been very specific in going after the points that are being made, if that makes sense. So I don't necessarily want this thing of going after the lefty himself as opposed to the points that are being made. But I remember this when it came up. Like, I remember when this became this kind of big fuckfest of people screaming hysterically, talking about the woman wanted her to be a Nazi. I mean, people were calling a woman a Nazi and a white supremacist and all this other weird shit. And it's like, you people are fucking idiots. She said nothing of the such. And yet, that's what they conflated, that's what they ran with, and that's the narrative of events that took place. So, my issue with this is, it massively lacks context in what she was actually talking about. In fact, that's the thing that's woefully missed in a lot of these conversations. And I suspect that's going to be woefully missed when people bring up Bernie Sanders. So, I don't know. Tom went after Debbie. No. This other kid. The kid that I'm talking about in the video, he went after Debbie. This was like a year ago. Tom Hartman went after Debbie. You mean St. Progressive Rob? No. Tom Hartman didn't go after Debbie. No. Tom Hartman did not go after Debbie. I'm saying the guy, Progressive Voice, went after Debbie. This was like almost a year ago. This was when we first started. I think the reason Hartman left RT America is that he felt having to register as a foreign agent might mess up his pension for the CIA. He did not. Pension for the CIA. But wait a minute. I thought you were okay with aligning with people you agree with them and having them share your stuff. But wait a minute. I thought you were okay with aligning with people when you agree with them and having them share your stuff. Yeah, I think I'm missing part of this conversation. For all intents and purposes, I am not against aligning with people on particular issues. Let me say it that way. Like if it's something where it's like, I use the Rand Paul example because I think the Rand Paul example is a good one. I disagree with Rand Paul on 90% of the shit Rand Paul says. But on that 10%, if Rand Paul was like, hey, let's go to a rally and fight for legalizing drugs, then yes, why would I tell Rand Paul no? Yeah, I'd be right there with him. I kind of agree with LTMB about Debbie, though. They're not smearing her like others. Breaking the chains. Point is, you can go after someone. You don't have to hate them. Yes, that's true. Progressive Voice went after Debbie about Florida shooting recently, right? That I don't know. I don't watch his channel, so I'm not sure. Steve's making it rain all every year. All this is showing us how far right Bernie would need to go in order to be in with the DNC. Oh man, I hope not. Oh wow, I did not. Man, I've completely missed this. Red Economics, much love, Jamal. Been really digging your interviews recently. Oh, thank you, Red Economics. I appreciate this. Thank you, Stevie. And Marta, thank you, Marta. I appreciate it. Guys, I totally appreciate it. I have right many new interviews coming up, by the way. I think I mentioned it before. So, and I'll end it on this as kind of a note. So, Steve Bassett is the executive of Paradigm Research Institute, I believe it's called, or Paradigm Research. Steve Bassett is a UFO lobbyist. Oh, man, I cannot wait for him to come onto the show. But he's coming onto the show on Thursday at, I think it's 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that should be damn good. That is not to be missed. That is going to be damn good. He has decades of experience in this. Man is an amazing speaker when he's giving his presentations. It's like when you're reading the alien stuff, you start off, at least I did. I started off from the new agey side of the pool. And then at some point I realized, yeah, you don't know if any of this stuff is true. Even your experiences, those experiences have been somewhat esoteric, and you're kind of in this thing of it could be true, it might not be true. You end up looking into UFO stuff. It's almost the way you kind of just as you pursue one thing after the next to try to understand what's more true than not. You end up in literature of people like aliens are eating our babies, aliens are eating cows, aliens are doing this, aliens are doing that. I had sex with an alien. All this other just out there stuff. And sometimes you're terrified by the weirdness of the stuff that's being said. Eventually you come to a point of, all right, I think some of these people are insane, and beyond some of these people are insane, it's kind of besides the point. I can only go to the stone that I can see. Meaning, it will be insane for me to believe something if I can't even see where that particular thing is. I can only go up to the point where I can see. I can only go to where the end of the water stops, or to where I can see the stone. Steve Bassett was one of those guys who was amazing at his lectures. Him, Grant Cameron, some of the guys are fantastic at the way they present information and the logical basis in which they display that information. Bassett is one of those people. So that is going to be an amazing interview. That's going to be Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And Caitlin Johnston, the person who's the subject of this particular talk, will be here on Tuesday at 9 o'clock, I'm sorry. Should be here at 9 o'clock. So it should be pretty damn interesting, to say the least. Both of those interviews. In fact, I have a few more that I'm trying to line up beyond that. But I am trying to keep a steady stream of people coming onto the channel to give difference in point of view and everything else. So, Terry, that's why I offered you to call, the opportunity to call in. You would have been given a different point of view on the Sanders thing. Terry disagrees with Theo Sanders. And so I really wanted that difference of point of view. Have you seen Nightmare Fuel's video attacking Caitlin Johnston? I have not. What is with these people attacking Caitlin Johnston? Why don't they like Caitlin Johnston? I don't understand. What is this? Stephen Colbert. Holly Siegler will end up hurting the progressive movement. She will not. She will not. Try and get RBR interview network. That's okay. I don't want that guy's insane. I'm sorry, Jay. That guy's insane. That guy's absolutely insane. Look, it's one thing. My sandbox is the left. That's my sandbox. But within that sandbox of the left, I tend to be further to the left than most. Meaning I end up a lot of the stuff in libertarian spectrum. So within the libertarian frame, fair enough. We need to at least agree on reality, though. He doesn't even agree on reality. I mean, you make the point about Obama drone striking, and he's like, "Oh, those are just lies. He's just murdering terrorists." I was like, "Okay, fair enough." Terry J123, call in. I want you to call in. Terry, I want you to call in. I'm throwing the gauntlet down. Let's see. In fact, let me make sure my mail is up because I'm saying call in, and I don't even have my mail up. But Terry, if you're still here, and you really want to have that conversation about Sanders. I still watch Hartman too, Terry. I like Hartman. But Terry, I would love for you to call in. I would love for you to call in. Yeah, everybody's in call, Terry. Everybody wants Terry to call. Does Terry have the balls to call? And I know she's a woman, but you know my point. Call Terry. Everybody wants to call. The gauntlet is throwing the gauntlet down. Everybody wants her to call. I like Tom Hartman. I like Tom Hartman. I don't like it when he's, doing the Hillary Clinton thing and everything else, but that man is brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant. Yvonne Knight, Terry, don't puss out. Triangle, do it. Everybody's saying do it. Jay Scott, Terry, everybody wants her to call. Is she going to do it? Is she going to do it? I don't hear a phone call. I don't hear a call. You're letting us down, Terry. You're letting us down. Come on, Terry. They're not. She's right here, Terry. You're right here. Call. Holly is fucking awesome. I like Holly. She's not going to call. She's not going to call. She's not going to call. I don't think she's going to call. She's going to punk out. She's going to pump out. Dale Chomsky, have you seen Max Blumenthal's interviews on Russia? Something. Great stuff, concise and articulate. I like Blumenthal. I'll check him out. Tom has cultivated an appealing persona like a political prairie. He's just this kind of placid personality. He's calm. He's straightforward. I mean, granted, when he starts, rah-rahing Democrats and all this other stuff, I watch his videos and I always think to myself, why are you a Democrat? Like, the guy is he's a fucking socialist for all intents and purposes. Like, the stuff that he's talking about. And yet, he will still support that party like nobody's business. 24-hour lib. Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate it. Tom's brain has been eaten. You think it's a little alien creature sitting on the back just munching on it. If he turns around at his desk and it's there. I don't know if Tom's brain has been eating. I think, look, I think Tom in his head has an idea of what the party was. And I think in his mind what the party can be. And I think from a cultural standpoint, he is stuck to that. I mean, he's for all intents and purposes stayed with that particular thing. I would love to interview him. Like, it's one of those things I would love to talk to him about, the Sanders thing, the Clinton thing, and even now where he believes that, I remember one of the shows, he was like, he thought somebody was just pranking him on the phone, so he was being a dick to the guy. I'm curious about it. I'm amazingly curious about it. 878. Tom's probably just scared that if the Democratic Party falls, then the Republican Party would end up unopposed. I agree, man. I think that's probably it too. Like, he probably doesn't see an alternative. He just looks at it as, well, we have to toe this line, and if we don't toe this line, Republicans are going to take it. You should try to call Tom. I've tried to call Tom on multiple occasions. Could never get through. Could never get through. Cool Blue 71. Tom Hartman is a Democrat because he self-identifies as one, which, in one's mind, can be for any number of reasons. Yeah, it becomes tribal at a certain point. Trudy, ignore the words. Only thing that matters is one's actual record of voting and action. Trudy, fucking A. Agreed. Agreed. Oh, Holly. We're talking about Holly. Look, I don't think there's any issue with Holly. I like Holly Seeger. I like her. She's been on the show. I like her. I think she's cool people. To add a little bit of context, so somebody sent me a video the other day, and they were like, dude, I know you're affiliated with Holly. She's gonna bring issues to the left. And I was like, why do you believe this? And once I understood what he was talking about, I still was kind of like, why do you believe this would be an issue? I don't know why he thinks it's an issue. She's a political commentator. She does fucking awesome at her job. So I have no issue with Holly. I think she's awesome. Tom's too damn nice. The most resistance I've received to dismantling a two-party system is from older Democrats. Yes, MRFs. Because they can't see anything different. Like, they can't see the, they can't see anything different. In their mind, this is the way things are. Bob Romero said, Tom loves his money, mansion, and yacht. Oh, Bob. Bob, you're a cynical somebody. Kishwari Kate. For some reason, I think someone gave Tom Hartman a shaking down. That's why he left Washington. You think they gave him a shakedown? Oh, man, that's funny. That's funny. Oh, God. Garno. Mrs. Thomas told me that Jamal wakes up screaming at night in the middle of the night due to nightmares about progressive voice kicking the shit out of him. Oh, God. Yeah. I'm a beast in my dreams. In my dreams, I'm a fucking beast. I know the last time I've been scared in my dreams. It was years ago. Like, I had a dream I was abducted. That scared the shit out of me. That scared the shit out of me. Man, I think I've told this before. It was during the time when I was heavy into like doing the meditations and stuff. I was trying to get a conscious OB. When I was younger, I used to have lucid dream states, but I couldn't necessarily control the dream states. I would just awake in the dream state, and I could either call for things or call for people, stuff like that. Somewhere along the way, as I got older, that faded, and I was like, I want that faculty back. And I started wanting the faculty back in a way that I could control the faculty, not just kind of random, oh, I'm awake. I have a body somewhere, but I'm wide awake. So I started trying to focus on having conscious OBs. Meaning there's no break in consciousness. If there's no break in consciousness, like, so in the normal circumstances, somebody could say, well, you fell asleep. In that case, it's like, well, no, I didn't fall asleep. I was wide awake because I went through the entire process. One of the things that I also was doing around the same time was getting into some of the meditations that allowed, they call them contact meditations, but the point I was doing it for was either to validate it or to invalidate it. It's like, if this is true, then I should be able to do XYZ. It should be repeatable. It shouldn't be just this guy did this somewhere and this guy was able to create some kind of weird phenomena. It should be repeatable. It should be shown that multiple people can repeat. And so I would try all of these different meditations and everything else. And I remember it happened twice. The first time, it scared the shit out of me. It scared the living shit out of me. Where I'm in bed, I get up, and everything looks the same. So it's not like I can tell the difference. The texture feels the same. And I'm in bed. I hear something upstairs, and I get out of bed. I take 2 steps, and I'm frozen. I can't move, like completely frozen. And it's not frozen where you're asleep and your body is kind of in this paralysis. I am frozen. I can't move at all. Can't move a muscle. And my wife is like, babe, are you okay? And I'm like, I can't move. I'm frozen. And I end up falling back down to the bed. And I hear something upstairs. And I hear something coming down the steps. And I go into full panic. Like it is hard to get across the level of panic. It's like if you think your panic level can only go to a certain point, you are massively mistaken. It's one of those type of panics. When I went skydiving, because I'm trying to put it in context to get across this idea of what this panic is. I went skydiving. This was several years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And oftentimes when I want to do stuff, either bungee jumping, skydiving, whatever, in my head, it's one way. It's like, oh, this is going to be great. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to be so present. It's like, these are, you know, the point of life is to experience, and let's have some experiences. And then you get to the skydiving place, and I went by myself initially. My mom eventually came with me because she wanted to see it. But I get to the skydiving place, and your anxiety ticks up a little bit. It just ticks up. Like, so it's like, okay, I'm okay. No big deal. I'm still calm. Anxiety ticks up. Then you watch a video. You have to watch a video by law. And in the video, they say, look, if you die because of skydiving, because of something that happens, you can't sue anybody. And not only can you not sue anybody, if your family or loved one brings a lawsuit, you are responsible for the damages, meaning they're going to have to pay for the damages of that particular lawsuit. And you're like, what? That doesn't even make sense. They're trying to make this point of, if you die, there is no recourse for the fact that you died. You knowingly jumped out of an airplane, a perfectly good airplane. So, okay, fair enough. I'm still okay. Your anxiety ticks up that much more, but you're still okay. And you're like, all right, fair enough. Then you meet the guy who's going to be there with you. He says, hey, Jamal, how's it going? He's really excited for some reason. We're going to jump out of an airplane. You ready for this? And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I'm ready. All right, man. All right. I'll be back here in a moment. And then at this point, my mom and dad, well, my mom and her husband show up. And, you know, there's certain things that happen where you remain calm just for the sake of remaining calm. Like, you don't want to punk out because you just look bad if you punk out. But I'm still calm. The world is good. But my anxiety level is starting to kind of tick up uncontrollably. And then they say, all right, let's get on the airplane. And you see this little rickety airplane that's going to go up in the air, and you have a bunch of people, and you get into the plane, and you have all these people who are on the airplane excited, and they're hyped up, and they're like screaming, and like, yes, we're going to jump out of an airplane. This is a perfectly good airplane. We're going to jump out of a fucking airplane. Are you ready for this? And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I'm ready. Let's do this. My anxiety, once we got onto that airplane, my anxiety just hit the roof. And and I'm calm. Don't get me wrong. In all these situations, I talk myself down. It's like, just keep calm. You're okay. The world is good. You're okay. Just keep calm. Just keep calm. You just talk to yourself down. And the guy who's with me, he's like, all right, I'm going to push. When they say this, you're going, I'm going to scoop you up, and we're going to dangle on the side of the airplane while we're 10,000 feet up. And as you're dangling over the side of the airplane, I want you. And you're like, all right. He's giving you a lot of information, and then there's another anxiety of, okay, I need to retain all the information that he's giving me at this point, and we're about to jump out of an airplane. One person goes, the next person goes, the next person goes, and you're seeing all these people literally fall out of an airplane. Like, this is the weirdest shit you've ever seen. And it's like, you're the last person, and he's like, you ready? Let's do this! And he's like screaming in your ear, and he scoots you to the edge. And for a moment, you're like dangling on the side of an airplane, and he's like grabbing your head. He's like, look up, don't look down. And then after a while, you find yourself tumbling out of an airplane. Now, your anxiety hits 100 at this point. But your anxiety hits 100 only until you fall out the airplane. It's so bizarre. It's like the moment that you're out the airplane, your anxiety for the most part calms down. And you're like, oh my God, this is awesome. But before you fall out that airplane, man, your anxiety goes to the fucking roof. That's kind of the way this was, where you're aware that this is weird. You hear something upstairs. You know that you've been doing this weird meditations and stuff like that for this thing of phenomenology, and you're in outright panic. Like that's how it was. You're frozen, but you're panicking. And in my head, I'm screaming no, in which case I wake up the next morning and I'm terrified. Not terrified, but I'm also ashamed of myself. I'm like, fuck, that's embarrassing. That's embarrassing. Being that terrified is embarrassing. But yeah. Challenge Tom to come onto your show and take calls from Patreon. I would love for Tom to come on the show. Tom would never come on this show. Tom would never do that. Steven, quit being a prick. I've seen those videos. It's not stripping, it's burlesque. Yes, I agree with you. Yeah. The progressive voice in no way smeared anybody. FTW all day. Okay, what you talking about FTW all day? Let's see. I don't see the top. Oh, that's sweet, but don't put... Let's see. I'm not going after teenagers. This guy is going after, the guy's attacking Dore and Caitlin Johnston, calling a woman a conspiracy theorist, and then saying he felt some kind of way that Jimmy Dore brought the woman on the show. I mean, come on. Are you serious? I'm perfectly okay with Holly taking her clothes off. Jamal, just saying. That's funny. She's been lying for a long time, and come on, man. I mean, assume for the moment that what you're saying is true. So let's say, what's the worst? Let's take it beyond that. Let's say the person wasn't into burlesque. Let's say the person wasn't into stripping. Let's go so far as to say the person was a prostitute. Let's say, fuck it. Let's say the person was even in porn. I'm trying to make this point that what does it matter? What does it matter? Like, what's the issue here? I don't understand the issue here. Even if what you're saying is absolutely and completely true, I don't think anybody cares. You're talking about the left. Like, you're not talking about these kind of right-wingers who are hung up and deprived of sex and all this other stuff. You're talking about the side that for the most part thinks orgies are fucking awesome, think drugs are fucking awesome, and for the most part are living like live. What's the issue? What's the issue? I don't get it. Burlesque is not stripping, you cretin idiot. Oh, let's not be abusive. Let's not be abusive. These Simons, let's not be abusive. Crap, the video's gone now. Steven, I guess my point is, even if you are right, even if you're saying this is stripping and it's not burlesque, take it further. Say for example, she was having sex on a dance floor at some kind of what does it matter? I guess I'm making the point that what does it matter? If the person is amazing at what they do, meaning she's fucking awesome at giving commentary, and she makes the decision that she wants to give commentary, what does the other stuff matter? What does it matter? Who cares? I don't know who cares about it. I don't know who cares about it. That's all. She's lied a lot. Oh, she's also lied a lot when smearing Nick Brana. Well, Brana can take care of himself. She can take care of himself. All that trolling for nothing, Steven. Burlesque along with stripping is an art. Kevin Martinez. And by the way, I like burlesque. My wife and I love it. When we there's a place here in Virginia, in Richmond, that has shows every so often. I don't get the issue. I honestly don't get the issue. Yeah, Stephen Colbert, I don't get the issue on this one. Florida, they didn't make porn illegal, but I know what you're talking about. They decided to go after porn instead of guns. It's going to backfire. Backfire on who? That's assumed as a front fire. What's a front fire? Steven, what is your issue on this, man? What is your issue? What's your issue? I'm trying to understand the issue. I don't get the issue on this one. If Caitlin has been saying collaborating with All Right Chernovich is true, then I think he has a point. If she's been saying that, you still have your nose up her ass dumb. FTW all day. I'm assuming you didn't see the front part of this video. Look, my issue with this is it completely misses her point. Do you honestly believe that Caitlin Johnston, who he himself defined as this kind of, left-winger, that she's saying, yes, I want to hug a Nazi. I want to hug somebody on the alt-right. Do you honestly believe that that's her point and that's what she's saying? And if that's not what she's saying, meaning if there's more context to it, then what he's saying is not true. Like, her point was, in areas of the right where you can agree with the right on, then you should unite with the right. The goal in this is to take down the establishment and the way the establishment has arranged itself. If this particular person, who under normal circumstances is a detestable human being, for whatever reason also agrees with you that war is not something we should take on lightly, that we should not be wasting the resources to bomb and kill and all this other stuff. If that person, in that very specific and limited context, agrees with you, then what's the issue? That's her point. Her point is, if it's something specific that that person agrees with you on, then you can work on those issues that you guys agree on. If I think it's a horrible idea that they're putting people in prison for pot, and there's somebody who I think under normal circumstances is a detestable human being that also agrees with me on this. Now, mind you, it depends on the level of detestability, of course. That's one of those things that's up to the person. I like to use Rand Paul as an example. But the point is, it's like somebody saying, Jamal thought it was an awesome idea that Rand Paul said that, hey, we need to not go into other countries and bombing those countries. Well, this guy is supporting Rand Paul. This guy is a libertarian. This guy is this guy is that. That would be patently ridiculous. And the moment that the moment that somebody talked to me, I would say, no, this other stuff that Rand Paul is doing is full of shit. It's ridiculous. The guy is a plutocrat's puppet. But on the specific issue of not going into other countries and involving this country in the wars and militaristic conflicts, and the subject of not locking people in prison for pot and this other drug crimes, yes, I agree with him on. When Donald Trump came out and killed the Trans-Pacific Partnership, guess who raised their hand and says, good fucking job, Donald Trump? When Donald Trump turned around and moved the military into the CIA, guess who said Donald Trump is a fucking asshole and killer? You can have the intellectual honesty and for that matter, the intellectual clout to say there will be certain things that you agree with people on and other things that you don't. This kid, I would wager to you that 90% of the issues that he brings up, I may actually agree with him on in regards to the end result. Like, where do you want to end up? What is the place? What is the panacea that you want to end up if you had your choice on how things were and how the world worked? Yes, you get into these issues of this kind of spectrum thing where you have these minute differences, but I'm talking about at the end result. If everybody got their unicorns and rainbows and everybody had their moment in the sun and there was free the nipple and all this other stuff, we would probably agree with that. I guess our issue becomes this thing on how do you get to that point? And my main point in this is calling somebody on the left a conspiracy theorist. Right there, that's somewhat problematic. Saying that Jimmy Dore, you shouldn't bring on this person because this person is a conspiracy theorist, and you were, saddened by Jimmy Dore bringing the person on, even bringing the person on the show was somewhat saddening and all this other stuff. And there'll be Dore fanatics that dislike the video. It's not really a Dore fanatic thing. It has more to do with you attacking somebody who's on the left as a journalist without necessarily giving a wider context on why the person was doing what they're doing. You're leaving this kind of big gaping hole on something that doesn't really make sense. This person who's supposed to be this left-wing Alex Jones type is being described is trying to interact with this complete right-wing, this Nazi of sorts. And it's like, well, wait a minute, if this person is so far on the left and this person is so far on the right, why is this person trying to get together in the first place? Well, the missing thing in that is on items that you agree with. All of it was couched into on items to which you agree. Nobody was saying hug a Nazi. Nobody was saying be a Nazi. Nobody was saying any of that stuff. It's like, come on. The issue here was a dumb broad wanted to collaborate with Nazi. This isn't rocket science, JT. Yes. No, it's not rocket science. But FTW, my question is, why? Why did she want to collaborate with this guy? Why? Why? Explain. Why? What was her reasoning? I mean, this channel is look, you know how the channel is. This channel looks for context. It doesn't necessarily go with the shallow answer for this. Why does she want to collaborate with a Nazi? Call a Nazi. Fair enough. But why does she want to do that? Jamal pisses his pants at the mere mention of progressive voice. He experiences a mixture of a mixture of terror and adulation. Okay. All right. Stephen Colbert 5. So the Green Party is the party of dishonest strippers. What? Are you serious? Are you serious? Come on, Steven. Come on, man. Come on, dog. Come on, dog. Come on, man. Come on. I gotta be honest, I don't even know how to respond to that. Yeah, I don't know how to respond to that one. I mean, why do you believe that one person doing something, and mind you, you can make an argument being burlesque or stripping, either way, I don't care. But what does it matter? I guess that's what I'm trying to get at. What does it matter? Let's say that everything that you're saying is absolutely true, Stephen. Everything that you're saying is true. And like I said, let's take it further than that. Let's say it was prostitution. Let's say it was prostitution and doing porno shoots. Let's say it was BDSM porn. Fuck it, take the chains off. So what? So what? That's what I'm getting at. So what? What does it matter? You're talking about the left. The left is usually live and let live. The left is usually not necessarily caring about this idea of porn, or not necessarily caring about this idea of stripping and everything else. I have myself made the argument that women not being able to show their nipples is this thing of oppression. It's male oppression. It's this kind of paternal presence built into the law itself. Men can show their chest, but women can't show theirs. Beyond this point, what does it matter? Like, so what? Even if what you're saying is true and it's not burlesque stripping. I've seen one of the videos. It looked like burlesque to me, but whatever. You can say that the difference between those things is not that massive. What does it matter? What does it matter? That's what I'm asking. What does it matter? Burlesque was theater, not stripping. Jeffrey Pearson. I understand. I'm just saying, what does it matter? I'm about to suggest giving Steven the boot. I am not. No. I don't want to give anybody the boot for something like that. He's making a point. He's not being a horrible person. I just massively disagree with his perspective on this. I mean, what do you believe she's done that's wrong? And why do you believe that even if you are right, like I'm giving you everything, I'm saying, even if everything that you're saying is true, even if I grant you all of it, which I don't, but even if I grant you all of it, what does it matter? What does it matter? It's like, so what? What does it matter? Jamal, aside from yourself, who do you trust most on YouTube? Trust is strong. I like Real News Network. I like Democracy Now! I like Debbie. I don't necessarily agree with Debbie on everything, but I do like her. Sometimes I think she goes a little bit into the weeds, but I understand why she goes into the weeds. I trust people from a perspective standpoint, if that makes sense. Like for example, I trust Russia Today or RT to talk about imperialistic pursuits. Well, they talk about imperialistic pursuits because those things go against the interests of Russia in this case. I mean, yes, go against the issue of Russia. So if I'm looking for something to be somewhat antagonistic towards imperialism, or if I'm looking for people who are going to be strong in that, I know RT is going to be one of those. I know Lee Camp is going to be one of those. I know lefty networks in general tends to be pretty decent on those. Not recently, I mean, because they've been on this Russia nonsense. Real News Network, I like a lot, and I've grown to like them that much more. If you're looking for stuff on Clinton, HA is the Johnny on the spot for anything related to Hillary Clinton. If you're looking for stuff on like all of the stuff is perspective in regards to what are you looking for. Each person have their own thing, if that makes sense. Like, you can use Washington Post, New York Times, Politico, The Hill. You can lose all those things. You just have to know the perspective that you're getting. Usually what ends up happening is using one story and using that story to pivot onto other stories to try to get more information on it. So it's not really relying necessarily on one in totality, in as much as getting a little bit of information from a particular source that leads you to a narrative or leads you to a story for something else. But from a YouTube standpoint, a YouTuber standpoint, that's not something like a news network. Of course, I like Dore, but Dore's not really a news network in that sense. Let me say, the thing I look for more than anything else is earnestness. Like, do I believe the person is being earnest when they're giving their story and their opinion? I can completely disagree with opinion if I think the person is being earnest when they're giving it. And even me disagreeing with one particular opinion doesn't necessarily mean I disagree with all of it. Hartman, for example, I think Hartman is amazing when he's talking about history and stuff like that. Man's knowledge base is fucking astounding. Like, it is hard to get across, like, the shit that he brings up when he's talking about, like, like Thomas Jefferson and pre-Columbian traditions of Native American traditions and all this other stuff. This man is fucking amazing. Now, don't get me wrong, he'd take that and then turn that into, you need to vote for Hillary Clinton. It's like, what? What? How did we get here? How do we end up at this place? Let's see. Bernie, North Carolina. Could you work with Hitler on healthcare? Well, of course not. They're real lines. They're real lines. And to be honest, at that point, Hitler is not really Hitler. Like, I know what your point is. Let me get back to this one, though. Bernie, North Carolina. You have to take some type of standard when calling someone an ally, no matter where the common interests intersects. Bernie, North Carolina, I agree with that to some degree. I know what you're getting at, but I know what you're using an extreme example for it. If we're having a conversation and we're talking about Hitler, and Hitler, after being involved in a process that gets 50 million people killed, and for whatever reason Hitler comes up and says, look, I know I've killed or got 50 million people killed, now I want to do something for healthcare. I don't know if Hitler will be milling around where he can do anything about healthcare. Now, if you're saying before Hitler has killed 50 million people, would I work with Hitler on the specifics of healthcare? Well, at that point, he's not Hitler. I mean, at that point, it's some random guy who wants to get something done with healthcare who has some really shitty views on other things. Is it possible for me to say, yes, I agree with this guy on this very specific thing, but I disagree with him on other stuff? Yes, it is possible for me to do that. It is possible for me to do that. Hitler is not Hitler until Hitler does all that stuff. The reason why you know who Hitler is because Hitler did some really nasty shit. Trying to deal with him after the fact he's done some really nasty shit is kind of besides the point. There's no way to do it. Chernovich is not Hitler. Chernovich is not Hitler. We need to define our terms. As gross as the man is, he is not Hitler. So let's be specific. I understand the point. The point you're trying to make is there needs to be standards when you're interacting with people, and some people are just off limits. I understand your point. But Chernovich, certainly you understand he's not Hitler, right? I mean, come on. Let's be honest. Pat S. I guess I don't understand how Holly doing burlesque shows are stripping effects or credibility. I have no idea either. Pat S. I have no idea either. I have no clue. I have no clue. Bernie, North Carolina. Caitlyn called a self-professed alt lice and ally. Check out the tweets today. I think you're saying alt-right. I need to see your tweets. I need to see your tweets. But what I can tell you is what the context of this was. I mean, let me say it this way. If Hitler, after committing all those crimes, was captured, and Hitler said, you know what, I was wrong. I need to turn on a new leaf. I want to be an ally to fight against war. Why would I turn that down? I guess that's what I'm getting at. If, regardless of what you think of the person, first, nobody that she talked about was Hitler. That's the first point. And even though the person might have been a detestable human being, even by my own standards, she's being very specific when she's saying, on issues that you agree with, I don't understand why that's even controversial. I don't understand why it's controversial. Now, I also accept that there's a latitude in this, meaning people are different, meaning the standards that people have on this stuff are different. But come on. Come on. You guys are acting like the one who was saying hug a Nazi, and that's not what she was saying. That was nowhere near what she was saying. If we're going to talk about it, let's be honest about it. Stephen Colbert, so dishonest strippers represent progressive movement. Hitler had extreme anti-smoking policies too. Hitler had extreme anti-smoking policies. I love that. The bastard. Why are we still doing this? I don't know why we're still doing this, J. Scott. I don't know why we're doing this. Ageism is not nice. Ageism is not nice. Smokey over the line. Move on, Jamal. Look, I'm trying to give people their... I'm trying to allow people their say. I'm trying to allow people their say. These morons need to read what Caitlyn actually wrote. Agreed. They're only attacking her because somebody else told them to. John McCarthy. That's what it feels like. That's what it feels like. I'm sorry. That's what it feels like. That's exactly what it feels like. It feels like, hey, somebody said they didn't like her because she said this, so let's just attack her and pile on. That's what it feels like. By the same token, I'm trying to give the benefit of the doubt. Cool Blue 71. So even Hitler had his positives. Yes, you understand that at the time, they thought Hitler was a fucking awesome guy. And then he murdered or was responsible for the murdering of 50 million people. It's not so much that Hitler had his awesome qualities. The argument that's being made here is, so let's be specific with the argument so we don't get too far away from the point. Should you be willing to work with everybody if those people are trying to work in a particular direction? So if Hitler came out and said, I want to do something about healthcare, should you work with Hitler on that healthcare as opposed to the other policies? My answer to that is, if Hitler wants to do something about healthcare, yes. The moment that Hitler talks about killing people, then the answer becomes no. She's talking about being specific about dealing with people in specific areas. I don't understand why that's controversial. If people are saying, can I work with somebody who's detestable in some context, but is in this anti-war thing, then the answer becomes yes, I will work with them from the standpoint of anti-war. But again, that becomes depending on the person, and that becomes your own tolerance in regards to what you can tolerate. Would I personally work with Chernovich? No. No. If somebody else on the left was working with Chernovich from the standpoint of anti-war, would I blame the person? No. No. The difference becomes what I'm willing to do versus what I think somebody else is willing to do. I don't necessarily need to bash that person for saying that I don't necessarily like war. And if I can find somebody to work with me from the standpoint of anti-war, then I'm going to work with that person, even if they're horrible in other contexts. I don't understand why that's controversial. Like, I can understand people disagreeing with it. Fair enough. I don't know why anybody would disagree with that. But whatever. People have their own thing in regards to what they disagree. I defend the position because I think the position is valid. So, Hitler donated to cancer research to most young. Blaster Master. People are malleable. They have ability to change. There's no reason to act so tribalist. Agreed. Blaster Master. Agreed. Agreed. Orthidium, exactly. Brahm SL1. Stephen Colbert, you haven't made your case yet about her being a liar and continue to attack her credibility with that being a stripper. Yeah, that's my issue with this line of attack on this. What does her being a stripper have to do with the price of tea in China? That's assuming she was a stripper. I mean, somebody saying they do burlesque, you look at it and say, that burlesque looks like she's stripping to me. And then you go with this idea of bashing her, calling a woman a stripper. And then you go further on saying that why should this liar represent the left, the progressive movement? She is a person given a perspective. Now, you can disagree with her perspective on some of this stuff, fair enough. But your attacks mainly boil down to, quote unquote, she's a stripper. And because she's a stripper, she's going to cause some kind of harm to something. I don't know, A, what she's harming. B, even if you're right, I don't know why that matters. I think that's the point that people are getting at. What does it matter? What does it matter at all? Even if what you're saying is absolutely, completely true, meaning even if people give you all of the latitude and the benefit of the doubt, what does it matter? What does it matter? It's like, so what? I guess this is my point, dude. I don't know what the collateral damage is in this. Collateral damage to who? You're making this point that you think people will attack her. In fact, I think this is the argument that you're making. And tell me if I'm wrong. That in your mind, she's a stripper. And because she's a stripper, and she says she's a burlesque dancer, or she's done burlesque, you're saying stripper. She's saying burlesque. You understand that those things are very similar to one another, meaning it can be burlesque. But assuming for the moment that it is stripping, so what? How does that tar anybody? How does that change anything? If she was a stripper, if she was a prostitute, if she was a porn star, what does that matter? What is the price of tea in China? If this was the right wing, then maybe. They have these religious hang-ups and all this other stuff. But this is the left. What does it matter? I just don't understand what it matters. Yeah, I don't know what it matters. It's like if I had a, you're a failed troll, no one cares, and now you're a basement dweller. Call them person a failed troll, Jesus Christ. Winkle has dick lips? What? Winkle, you don't have dick lips. Don't let that person disparage you, man. I only punch left when it's a bunch of pretenders sucking off political con artists. Oh, Jesus Christ. Holly is a grown woman who gives a shit. Agreed. Agreed. I don't understand this issue with strippers. I don't understand it. Don't understand it. We should be able to openly discuss a lot of topics the censors are trying to shut down. Agreed. Jamal Thomas, when you say you wouldn't work with Chernovich, what does it mean to work with someone? Well, even that, the language becomes somewhat slippery. So in her context, in the context of the article that she was talking about, she was saying sending like a Facebook tweet or something like that. Like if Chernovich puts out a tweet, should she feel some kind of way about tweeting something if it was anti-war? I acknowledge other people may have a different latitude on this. So if somebody feels, look, I don't care where this tweet comes from, if it's going after anti-war, or I don't care where this tweet comes from if the person is trying to stop drug crimes or drug wars. Fair enough. Let me give you an example. If a tweet comes out from Sean Hannity, and the tweet from Sean Hannity says something like, they found this Russiagate stuff is nonsense because of XYZ. Would I have any issue sending that tweet out? No, probably not. I've even reviewed Sean Hannity doing a show where they were going into this thing of Jeff Sessions or whether or not he was doing an investigation into the Justice Department. I am okay with that. I'm okay reviewing that. I'm okay sending that particular tweet if it's that specific issue. I have a thing in my head saying, oh God, this is Sean Hannity. This is gross. And this guy is full of shit. So it's the credibility of the person that gets into this thing of whether or not you either send a tweet or a Facebook post. This kind of goes into line with your particular latitude and whether or not you think the person is being genuine. What I would probably do is not send it from Hannity. I would probably not send it. What I would probably do is look at the object of the tweet or look at the object of the story that's being said and analyze the story for myself before sending it off. I probably wouldn't necessarily attach his name to it because I don't necessarily like Hannity. I don't want to give him any credibility for it. That being said, am I going to bash somebody on the left for saying, this guy sent this tweet and I'm sending this out? No, I'm not. I'm not. I am not that tribal. Well, I'm going to do that. I'm not that tribal. It's all good. Just kicking myself for not making a video on this now. Jamal Wiz, what do I win? Bill O'Reilly, who let you out of the darkness and into the light of this channel? Yeah, Billo. We were talking about that yesterday. Alright, this video was not supposed to be this long. I gotta be honest. This video was supposed to be like 20 minutes and moving on. What is sexually objectifying YouTubers night? Because I support that shit. Sexually objectifying YouTubers. That's funny. That's funny. FTW all day. If you pretend to be on the left and collaborate with Nazis, the only thing you deserve is a punch in the mouth. Okay. Alistair Mraz. Jamal, you in 92 watching the Young Turks 153 watching Jamal. Ah, I appreciate it. It was higher at one point. We just kind of dragged on into this particular topic. Look, I think I've been fair on this. Meaning I read plenty of commentary from people I don't necessarily agree with on this. So you guys have heard the other side of this. I read the tweets as the tweets were being put out. Not tweets, but comments or chats. People know where I am, man. Like, when I do my live show, I do my live show for a reason. I assume that there will be people who disagree with me. So I read the tweets that disagree with me. Yvonne Legolis, because here we talk about strippers. Oh, come on. Isn't Progressive Voice a child? Somebody says he is. Yeah, he looks like a kid. He looks young. Don't say I'm going to end it here, Jamal. It just got here. Jamal Thomas is a stripper sympathizer. It's not sympathizing. There's nothing wrong with stripping. There's nothing wrong with burlesque. There's nothing wrong with prostitution. There's nothing wrong with any of this stuff. It's human beings. Fuck it up. Bernie C., it isn't tribal, just principle. One should not give an iota of credibility to anyone who professes Nazi ideologies, no matter what. Is it giving credibility if you agree with a specific point? I disagree with Donald Trump on... Look, I think Donald Trump is racist. I think Donald Trump is racist and sexist. I've said it before on multiple occasions. If Donald Trump was willing to get troops out of Syria, he didn't do it, but if he was willing to get troops out of Syria, are you telling me that you're not gonna support that because you think that the guy is racist and sexist? That even saying, yeah, good fucking job, those troops should be out of Syria, that's going to start a goddamn war with Russia. I fundamentally disagree with that. Fundamentally disagree with it. So, Jamal doesn't have a jealous thought enter his mind. A jealous thought about what? Frankly, Holly is sexy. Holly is hot. But that has nothing to do with her being a badass commentator. Progressive Voice is right on the story, and you people are idiots. Collaborating with enemies is strictly for snakes in the grass. Well, I guess that's the point. People don't necessarily see everything as being enemies. Again, going back to the whole point of being tribal. I mean, that literally is the point that people were making. This is this kind of weird tribalistic stuff that, yeah. Scott Sanders, Chernovich supports single payer and universal guaranteed income, and he's all messed up too. Yeah, you can have both. I mean, you can have somebody who's fucking horrible in one part and being okay in something else. Jamal needs to learn situational awareness. Harping on stripper shit by focusing on the comments is rude. Addressing them once is okay, but lending fuel to it, going on and on about it. Yeah, we disagree. We disagree. It's called putting the shit into the ground and not letting shit like that fester. And it's not rude or otherwise. Those things are just perspectives. Kevin, collaborating with enemies and being snakes in the grass. What is that? 20 million to 20 TYT then? Oh, that's funny. Yeah, that's funny. Bernie C. Jamal Thomas, of course I would support the particular policy, just not attached to Troglodyte's name. I love it. I love you pointing Troglodyte. That's awesome. Look, I can agree with you that the person is a troglodyte. I can agree with you that the person is a horrible human being. I can agree with you that you would probably never see anything coming out of that person from me in particular. My issue, I think, with this is context. That's all. Like, to nail it down or to minimize it into she's supporting Nazis is magnificent. Missing context. Magnificently so. So yeah, I disagree with that part. Sean Parker, not all Trump supporters are Nazis. Not all Bernie supporters are Bernie bros. Agreed. Agreed. I wonder if Jamal has ever used Restream before so he can live stream on multiple platforms at once. I have not, Radio Boombox, and I've been wondering how to actually do that. God damn it, I love my audience. Love it. What is it called? Restream. Good looking out, Rainbow Boom X. Appreciate it. Sending another 5 in the name of FTW all day and below. Thank you, 24-hour live. I appreciate it. Look, guys, I accept that people are going to disagree with me on this stuff. I accept that people are going to disagree with others on this stuff. I massively disagree with this kid here on this particular one going after Caitlyn and the way dude's gone after her. Calling a woman a conspiracy theorist and all this other stuff. Look, there is more context to this. I wish she would not have used Chernovich. I so wish she would not have used Chernovich. Like, it's just one of the worst case scenarios that you could pick up. But what was her point? And that's the thing that I keep pointing to. It's like, but yes, what was her point? What was her point? It becomes this weird parody where the person completely misses what she was saying for one of the items in the thing that she was saying, as opposed to saying, but what was her point? What was her larger overall point? That was fundamentally missed. It went to this other thing. Are there people on the right? Are there people on the right? Say you're right. Say they're benchmarks. There's certain times where you're like, okay, there is no situation where I would ever work with this person. Fair enough. Are there people who you would work with on the right? If that answer is no, then yeah, this is purely tribalism at this point. If that answer is yes, the question becomes, okay, who are those people? What is your line? What is your spectrum? At which point of your spectrum does it say, okay, yes, this person is on the right, but I'm willing to work with this person? You understand that there will be people out there who are screaming at you saying you're a horrible person because you decide to work with that particular person on the right, and saying that you're screaming that those people are horrible because they decide to work with somebody on the right. I mean, come on. Come on. This shit is spectrum. Stuff is spectrum. Alright, I'm going to end this. This video was not supposed to go anywhere near this long. This video was supposed to be like 20 minutes. So, I'm going to end this here. The video that I had planned on getting to, I probably would not get to tonight, seeing that it's almost 10:30. Maybe. Depends on if I can't sleep. If I can't sleep, I'm coming back. If I can't sleep, I'm coming back. Terry, shame on you for not calling in. Shame on you. I am going to shame you like nobody's business for not calling in. For every video, I'm just going to be like, Terry should have called in. Terry should have called in. M99, take off your shirt. I am not taking off my shirt. No. Thank you very much, but I am not taking off my shirt. You don't want to see all the scars. Bamboo sticky rice. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. If you do another one, I'll call in, dude. All right, that's cool, Garden. I think I might do another one. JT needs to drink some haterade and stop going after 16-year-old kids. I am not hating on that kid. Come on. 30 minutes later, he's back. By the way, I am not hating on the kid. I'm going to check this video again and make sure I didn't say anything directly at him, if that makes sense. Like, it's one thing going after his position. I just disagree with his position on this. Fundamentally disagree with his position. The progressive voice never framed it that way. Only the people here seem to think so. All right, well, let's look at the videos right here. Where is it? Here we are.
This person who is this kind of Johnstone, who's basically this person who is this kind of underground left-wing journalist, I guess you would put it, and she's someone who had pushed the idea of allying with Mike Cernovich and people like Mike Cernovich. It seems to be that a lot of the kind of smaller left-wing channels and journalists and just smaller audiences seem to have this just really like almost Alex Jones level type of shit going on. So I'm really disappointed that Jimmy Dore did this video. I was really, surprised. I was like, what are you doing? This type of shit is just ridiculous. And, I talked about it, and so a lot of people are going to be really angry at this video who are just rabid Jimmy Dore fans or rabid, crazy left-wingers who are just conspiracy theorists at this point.
So, just so I'm clear. Just so I'm perfectly clear. Now, I was told, let me say it. Let me see it. Where is it? Let me see it. Where is it? So, it wasn't put this way. He didn't say that. So, what was that? So, that sounded to me like the woman is a conspiracy theorist. People on the left are acting like Alex Jones, and he's saddened that Jimmy Dore decided to bring her on, and this was, just insane shit that Jimmy Dore did. What am I missing? What am I missing? Jamal is fine at beating up 5-year-olds. I am not. Caitlin Johnston is Alex Jones now. This is kind of my point. Caitlin Johnston is nowhere near Alex Jones. And there's a lot of people who, just because they don't take the narrative of mainstream news, is not conspiracy theorists and don't necessarily get to the level of Alex Jones. And to put this in context, Alex Jones is a guy who's screaming at the top of his lungs about lizards taking over government and lizards being shapeshifters. Are you fucking kidding me? You're saying that Caitlin Johnston and the people who read her stuff is equivalent to Alex Jones screaming at the top of his lungs about lizard people. It's like, come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. That's amazing. Brianna Wilson, how do you feel about the same progressive video? I am decidedly pro Caitlin Johnston. I am too. I am too. Alex Jones on his knees for Trump. Yeah, this is what I mean. Like, this is magnificently offensive. And so you guys are talking about me going after a child. I mean, come on. This guy. So are you? This is like handicap spots. Like my wife was like, well, fuck, man. If I can't park in a handicap spot, that handicap person can't park in my spot either. It's like, so you telling me that this kid can go after other people who are on the left, calling himself the progressive voice, but at the same token, somebody kind of making a video saying, I massively disagree with what he's saying on this front, and this is why I massively disagree with it, and somehow I'm going after kids. Come on. Come on, come on, come on. Come on. Caitlin is an awesome journalist. Yeah. I'm a lizard. My people are winning. Right. It's like all of us are lizard people now, and all of us are into lizard people. I'm just saying, take it easy on a kid. Stoner Core. So I'm not hitting a kid. 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 I'm not hitting the kid. I think I remember him saying it in a live video. Yeah, I'm not hitting the kid. Debbie is almost always right. I don't know about that part. YouTube took down the conspiracy video about Parkland crisis actor because it was outrageous. Why not do the same for Alex Jones? That's an interesting point. That's an interesting point. That is an interesting point. Terry J. No, come on, Jamal. He's a kid. I don't like kids on normal circumstances. So I'm not hitting a kid. I know you guys are saying I'm hitting a kid. I'm attacking the perspective. I'm attacking the perspective. Kid is a YouTube show. He goes after anybody he wants. It's fair game like anybody else. Jamal is a Mother Jones writer call for Medium to drop anti-war leftist journalists. I saw that too. I saw that too. Definitely. Look, I don't believe this stuff is some quote unquote conspiracy. Like if there's a Parkland shooter at the school, I believe there's a Parkland shooter at the school. If there's a Las Vegas thing, I believe there's a Las Vegas thing. Yes, there's a such thing as false flags, but no, I don't necessarily believe that all this stuff is false flags. I disagree with Debbie on this. But like I said, I don't necessarily have to agree with everything the person says. Same progressive now thinks Parkland shooting was a false flag too. Oh, that is unfortunate. That is unfortunate. Guard, no, if the kids wants to put his gloves on, then he's gonna get hit. Jesus Christ, Guard. Jesus Christ. That's hardcore. Yeah, that's hardcore. That's hardcore. If the kid want to put gloves on, he's gonna get hit too. Jesus Christ. I didn't think I hit him. I didn't think I hit him. In fact, wow, I agree with Debbie. Sorry, Jamal. Triana be fine. Yeah, man. Yeah, I think she does. I don't agree with the false flag stuff. At least not in regards to the shootings. I don't agree with the false flag stuff with the shootings. That being said, should they take down the videos? No, I don't think they should take down the videos either. You create look, the issue with fake news is not fake news. The issue with fake news is the loss of belief in the way the system is. meaning the loss of respect and loss of trust in the political apparatus and the media apparatus, because it feels like those things are being dishonest to you. So fake news was always there. The only difference at this point is people are looking for and grasping for other things other than the mainstream media's narrative of events. But they're doing that not because they think it's just all of a sudden fucking awesome to go for mainstream media's narrative of events. They're looking for things that they believe is true because they feel that they've been lied to from these other agencies. The issue with fake news is not fake news in and of itself. The issue with fake news is people not necessarily being trustworthy in regards to the way they go about their affairs. Bill O'Reilly, Jamal, what do you think about the astral projection as it relates to the possibility of ET? What are your thoughts on Tom DeLonge being a useful idiot? Oh, God, that's a whole video by itself, Bill. Man, that's a video by itself. That's a video by itself. Oh, fuck. Bill. Oh, you bastard, Bill. You bastard. You can't ask that question at hour and 55-minute mark. Yeah, that's a video by itself. Alright, let's do a video by itself on that. We'll do a video by itself. Tom DeLonge being a useful idiot. I will say this. Well, first I'm going to check on my wife. Because this has been 2 hours and I thought this video was going to be like 20 minutes. So after I check on Miss Thomas, you know, everybody up to this point thought Tom DeLonge was lying. They thought Tom DeLonge was full of shit. They thought he was lying through his teeth. There's no way this rock star has all these military contacts. And then you look up and all of a sudden the WikiLeaks comes out. And lo and behold, Tom DeLonge's name keeps coming up in the WikiLeaks stuff, particularly when it gets along with Podesta. Tom DeLonge has not had direct experience with this stuff, meaning the information that Tom DeLonge had, that information was given to Tom DeLonge. And a lot of these things are like militaristic assets. If Tom DeLonge was the only person who's ever had military assets or people who are in these fields, and all of the people who came back from having these assets came with the same conclusion, then I would say, okay, maybe Tom DeLonge is onto something. The problem is you have different people with different assets, meaning multiple connections in a similar way as Tom DeLonge has. And they've come to magnificently different conclusions than Tom DeLonge has. Meaning they're not in this kit of aliens trying to take over the planet and all this other stuff that Tom DeLonge is in. And you can imagine that from a militaristic perspective, they look at this stuff from the standpoint of, oh my God, everything is a threat. Everything is out to get us. Everything is that type of stuff. If those are the people that Tom DeLonge is hanging around, and that's the information that Tom DeLonge gets, and Tom DeLonge believes he's on the inside of something, you know, like I'm on the inside of this, then yeah, he's going to take a particular perspective based on the people who he's around. It's like if you had a politician who gets into politics because he wants to do the right thing and he wants to do the best thing, and the more he realizes that he's around moneyed interests constantly, and his perspective changes. Now, he's not changing because he's a horrible person. Perspective changes because of the people who are in the room. This is the way the world is. This is how the world operates. This is what we need to do to get from point A to point B, etc., etc., etc. And from the perspective of the people in the room and the people who whisper in his ear, his perspective of the world changes. It is possible that Tom DeLonge's perspective is based on the people who are around him, meaning these kind of militaristic assets and everything else. And from the standpoint of, you know, a hammer, the world looks like a nail. So if he's interacted with the military, what does the world look like to Tom DeLonge if he's interacted with the military and the first thing that they're thinking about is threats and this other stuff? Yeah, that's a conversation about itself. That's all. That's a total conversation about itself. That's a total conversation on its own. So, I listened to a very interesting episode, Where Did the Road Go To?, where they pointed out the UFO cases to the Stars Academy keep using that have already been debunked by the UFO community. Video game quests, that's another point, right? So, there's multiple things that are coming out. One, god damn it, this is a whole nother video. Shit, yeah, this is a whole nother video. Yeah, there's a whole nother video. The one of the videos that they brought out, I think they call it a Tic Tac, something to that effect. So there are two parts. In fact, there are more than two parts. There's a lot of parts to this. These guys are introducing videos. They're introducing paperwork, files, and reports. And apparently they also have, excuse me, they also have materials, like actual materials. The UFO community has been weird, strange on this. They've been really bizarre on this. Some of which they're trying to debunk one of the other ones. The problem with this is you have like military pilots, you have like radar metrics, you have all this stuff, and you have a direct link between the Pentagon and the stuff going to the people. Not to mention you have a bunch of physicists who are saying that we don't have the capacity to do what these guys are saying that we had. What we did. We don't even know how to do it. We can postulate how to pull it off, but we don't necessarily know how to do it. The UFO community has been strange on this. They've been strange on this. I do remember an article that David Wilcock put out, but Wilcock is, I would say look up Wilcock's other stuff. That's all I'll say. I would say look up Wilcock's other stuff. Wilcock can be fucking weeds. Jamal on Rogan would be just like everything else on Rogan lately. Jamal and Rogan would be just like everything else on Rogan. You know, speaking of Rogan, Tom DeLonge was on Joe Rogan. That was a fucking awesome interview. That thing went 3 hours. And Rogan, to his credit, doesn't believe in this at all. Like, Rogan is looking at Tom DeLonge like, why on earth would the United States government bring in a rock star for this issue? Like, and you're looking and you're like, that's a good question. That's a damn good question. Now, on other stuff, he's being overly cynical. So he would see a video and he's like, that shit's fake, man. It's like, what is this supposed to look like? What video would you get where you look at it and you say, yes, this is exactly how this is supposed to look like? The best thing that he can say in this case is his paradigm, what he himself believes that this should look like. This doesn't look like what he himself believes it should look like. That type of stuff. So put that off to the side. Tom DeLonge's interview on Joe Rogan was fucking fascinating. There's a few times where you're looking at Tom DeLonge, you're like, oh my God, Tom DeLonge is, he's the thing that I saw in that interview where I was like, oh, it's almost like he's been given special knowledge. If that makes sense. It's like, I have the special information. Like, I know how this works. I know how this works. I know. I'm Tom DeLonge. I'm a rock star. I know how this shit puts together with UFOs. A little more modesty would have been better off, because it makes me somewhat distrustful of it. It's too, how on earth could you know? Like, the honest question is how? How would you know? How would Rockstar from so-and-so know this? Rockstar that doesn't have any direct experience with it. And even if you did have somewhat direct experience with it, still, how would you know? At most, you only know what you're being told. You only know what you're being told. That's a little different than saying, I know XYZ, or I have special knowledge of XYZ. You have a lot of people who were on the inside in regards to, like military contacts or governmental contacts or people who are in all these other industries. Stephen Greer, for example. Greer is insufferable to listen to. You know, Greer can talk for like an hour about UFOs, and 30 minutes is just about Greer. But that being said, press club and all this other stuff, Congress or witnesses to people in Congress, having all of these people give sworn testimony, like 40, 50 hours of the stuff. He comes to a completely different conclusion. This is one, like, so it's like whatever the conclusion the individual had when they went into this process seems to be the conclusion that they're allowed to prosper. So it's not, we're changing your point of view of this. We're just enhancing your point of view in order to get it out. If this is what you went along with, where you believe aliens are eating babies, then this is what we're going to leave you with, this belief that aliens are eating babies. If you believe that this process is completely benign and these guys are space brothers, then we're going to leave you with the thought that these guys are space brothers. The problem with this process is Tom DeLonge doesn't necessarily look and say, well, wait a minute, why do other people believe something fundamentally different even though they have just as many contacts? He doesn't do it. He just goes with what he thinks. Jamal, did you see the Russiagate debate between Glenn Greenwald and Scahill? Glenn won, in my honest opinion. So I saw the debate itself. I have it queued up on my watch list that I'm going to watch. But I did see it. The thing from the Intercept. Yeah. Yeah. But Glenn is a lion, man. Glenn is a fucking lion. Man, it's amazing. Bernie NC. Yeah. Thank you, Bernie NC, first. I appreciate it. But yeah, Glenn is a lion, man. Glenn is a lion. I saw it and retweeted it. Terry J. Yeah, Glenn is a lion on this. And I got to be honest, look, the Russia argument is just hard to make. It's just like it's what I would call a conspiracy theory. It's what I would actually call a conspiracy theory. They haven't showed the link at all, and it's purely politically motivated. And the best that they can come up with after what, almost 2 years of screaming about this is trolls. They were trolls. They were Facebook and Twitter trolls. It's like, come on, what the fuck? J. Scott, Democratic memo was released. Yeah. Somebody sent that to me earlier today. I haven't read through it yet. Jamal, since you did this video, you now owe Progressive Voice a rebuttal. A rebuttal in what way? He has a show. He can do whatever rebuttal he wants. J. Scott, read the Democratic memo. I am going to read the Democratic memo. I will. You guys think I should bring him on the show? I think that's what your point is. I'll think about it. I intentionally tried not to be a dick in this video, if that makes sense. Hopefully I achieved it. And maybe I shouldn't have done it live just to prevent me from being a dick in the video. But yes, we've experienced Russiagate, but did not like the false Democrat narrative. Yeah. Right there. Jim Hayden. That's what it is. That's what it is. No, please don't bring him on. He'll do his own thing. I don't care. I tried. Look, I grew up in a barbershop where we used to talk about each other miserably. And I am a product of my experiences. So even when I was 12, 13, 14 years old, these grown men used to talk shit to me as if I was one of them. So I know the filter in my head on this stuff is somewhat off in comparison to other people, just because the way I was raised and my environment. I did my damnedest not to be too aggressive in going after him on this. And I gotta be honest, I didn't know how old he was. I know he looked young, but I didn't know how old he was. Wouldn't have changed one iota. Ultimately, what it boils down to for me is you're calling somebody a conspiracy theorist and saying the person is like Alex Jones. And when I think of Alex Jones, I think of the lizard people thing. So yeah. All right, I'm going to end this. He threw some punches during the video, nothing over the line, but he deserves a face-to-face response. He has a video garden. He can get whatever response he wants. He has a channel. In fact, he has a channel that's larger than mine, so he can say whatever he wants. He always knocking my post. Don't put stupid shit. I'll stop pointing it out. What? FB poster. It would be hilarious if you brought him on, by the way, quality viewing. See, and that's why I'm not bringing him on. Like, you're talking about bringing him on to make fun of him. I'm not doing that. I talked to Scahill myself. You should talk to Sawhill. Who is Sawhill? I don't know who Sawhill is. Are you saying Scahill? Jeremy Scahill? You're about Scahill. I think most people of any label can agree about important things if they unplug the TV. Yeah, I think he's saying Scahill. I think he means Scahill. Winkle, I believe cake has 0 carb. Cake does not have 0 carbs. Oh, I see. Say his PV. Okay, I see. Pro Susie Dawson, yes. Pro Caitlin Johnston, yes. Pro Elizabeth Voss, yes. Yes. I agree. Look, the conspiracy theory thing, man, it's my pet peeve now. Like, it's become more of my pet peeve. The Russia nonsense. This Russia nonsense. And it's like one video after the next where somebody either has a debate or gets on and tries to defend it. They end up looking insane. They end up looking massively insane. Not Scahill, Sahil. He's the... Oh, yeah. Sahil. Okay. I didn't know his name. I just knew him as PV. Fair enough. All right, so I'm going to end this. I know I said I was going to end this like 30, 40 minutes ago. It is one of your pet peeves. Yeah, it's one of my pet peeves. Because, Terry, I think they use it to shut people up. I think they use it to shut people up. When they, yeah, I think they use it to shut people up. Like, you bring up the Russia stuff, and you'd be like, yeah, but that stuff is nonsense. And they would be indignant about it being nonsense. Like, what do you mean it's nonsense? Okay, prove to me that this took place. Well, I mean, they had Facebook ads. So you're calling, yeah, you're saying that the interference was Facebook and Twitter ads? Yeah, man, people shouldn't invade in our country. But what about us doing the same thing around the world? Oh, that's whataboutism. You mean us destroying other countries around the world, installing dictators and murdering people is whataboutism? Yes, that's whataboutism. It only matters when they use Facebook and Twitter ads in our country. And some of this stuff is fucking insane. The arguments that they make. The arguments are amazing. Alright, so I'm going to end this. His wife is going to kill him. Yeah, I told her this was going to be like 20 minutes. So, I'm going to end this. This one went magnificently long and far longer than I intended. I may be back tonight. If I am, it's probably going to be about 20 minutes. And we can talk about 420 about the Tom DeLonge being a useful idiot. Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Bill O'Reilly. Thanks, Bill. Skate has a great video about the whataboutism thing. Yeah, Terry, the whataboutism thing is insane. That's insane. Like, that's that argument is crazy as can be. It's like, we believe that Russia bought Facebook and Twitter ads, and that the Facebook and Twitter ads has something to do with undermining and attacking democracy. And they use Bernie Sanders as the person to make the argument that it attacked democracy. That's amazing right there by itself. The guy who was cheated by Russia, or the guy who was cheated by the Democratic Party, comes out and says that it was democracy itself was cheated. Forget the fact that he himself was being cheated. Yeah, the argument doesn't make sense. The argument is amazing. And yet, that's what they've been screaming at the top of their lungs. And it's gotten to the point where they would say, I'm reporting you to Facebook because you're saying that this Russian narrative is nonsense. It's like, what? What? My biggest argument, and since Terry is here, my biggest argument, Terry, since Terry is not going to call into the show because, you know, Terry is punking out on that front, my issue with this was, it's giving legitimacy, meaning Sanders is giving legitimacy to an attack on the left. That was my issue. That was the entirety of my issue. It's giving legitimacy to something that doesn't have any legitimacy. That's it. Now, I understand the argument is, well, he has to go along to get along if he wants to have any chance of running in the Democratic primary. Fair enough. Is it possible for him to do that without undermining his base and his supporters? Because at the end of the day, they're not going to say Bernie Sanders tried to put in the caveat after my campaign was over with. Nobody's going to add that caveat. Nobody's going to even think of that caveat. You're going to have a bunch of people who at the end of the day hate the fact that their candidate lost. And the only thing they're going to say is Bernie Sanders was helped by Russia. Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump was helped by Russia. That's all they're going to say. That's what you're going to hear. They're going to leave out all of the context in this conversation. Bernie Sanders, Jill Stein, and Donald Trump was helped by Russia. Those fucking Russians. If it wasn't for Russia and Jill Stein and Bernie Sanders, Hillary Clinton would be president by now. That's the argument that's going to be used, and that's the argument that's starting up right now. I guarantee you that that's the argument that's starting up. So, Terry is naked. A lot of us, it is strippers inspired night. It's not. Russiagate is so old and so unimportant. I wish it would stop. It's not just you, man. Think about all the stuff that's not talked about. Like think about all of the issues that plague your society, all of the issues that plague you, all those things, whatever those things are, all those issues that plague the world. And we're talking about Facebook and Twitter ads. And they're using that in the context of undermining democracy, even though it had no effect on the outcome of the election. It's amazing. Whataboutism is just about trying to justify bad behavior with others. Yeah. Yeah. Same as Pearl Harbor said, Democratic Jared Nadler. I know. It's fucking amazing. Absolutely fucking amazing. All right. I'm going to end this. Thank you all for... Let me make sure I got everybody. Jim Hyden was the last one. Thank you, Jim. I appreciate it, man. In fact, I appreciate all you guys. I know we don't always disagree on this stuff. And I know I may make shows about something that I don't like that somebody said, and other people may make shows about me or whatever. And I also know that sometimes we say bad things about each other. And I don't mean in the chat. Well, sometimes in the chat. Look, my main point is, as long as we have the capacity to talk to one another, we're good. And we're not going to always agree, even being on the same sandbox, in the same sandbox. This kid is in my sandbox. I don't think he's outside of my sandbox. But a lot of people are inside my sandbox that I don't necessarily agree with them on specific issues. I just greatly disagree with them on this particular issue. I don't like this idea of him going after other people on the left, calling these people conspiracy theories, when he fundamentally just disagrees with what they're doing. But that's kind of besides the point. You guys make the show what it is, honestly. I mean, it would be impossible to have the capacity. I know some people bitch about my shows being long. The show is only long because I'm adding in the audience to the conversation. The first part of the... That's not fully true. That's not fully true. It depends on the topic. It depends on what I'm talking about. Usually the first 20 minutes is just me. Everything else is the audience. And I bring the audience in because I want the capacity for the audience to get their point across and to speak their piece. Whether they agree with me or not, or somewhere between, I like the idea of them speaking their piece. The show itself, in many respects, is because of you guys. I mean, ultimately, if it wasn't for the people who are in the chat and everything else, ultimately you would just have a show with somebody giving an opinion and moving on to the next opinion. Being able to talk, hash it out, bitch, moan, complain, fight, and do so in a way that's not necessarily being a complete dick or cunt to the other people who are in there is a fucking noble quality. It is a damn good thing. And it really does allow the show and the chat to be what it is. So, Jamal lost one of his kidneys to me in a chess game. Yeah, I haven't had kidneys since I was 12, Luca. So, I don't... If you got one, I would not try to put that in anybody or use it. Yeah, man, I guess my point is, we're going to disagree on some stuff. And despite disagreeing on that stuff, if we could talk about it, we're not being dicks to each other, we can have the conversations. Perfectly okay. And I like the idea that my chat can do that. So, keep being you. You guys stay awesome. Continue to be kind to one another, even if you disagree with one another. Because, look, at the end of the day, if you're here, most of the time, we're in the same sandbox. Same sandbox. We may dislike something somebody says, we may dislike a position somebody takes, but at the end of the day, accept that we're still in the same sandbox. And ultimately, we're trying to get to the same place. We may disagree about how to get to that place, but we try to. So, and I know I'm saying that after making a video where I went after somebody, but I don't think I went after the person individually. I would have to look at this video again to make sure I have not. I think I just went after the position, and I tried to consciously do that. I am bad at that. Like I tried not to joke or not to go after somebody or the person. I tried in this case to be very mindful of, don't attack the person, go after the position, leave the person alone in this. Because ultimately, I don't know enough about him to know if he did anything bad or not. Like if I'm going after a politician, there's enough angst and pissed offness in me to go after the person where it's like, he's earned it. I can sleep at night. He's earned it. In this case, it's purely the position. I don't know enough about, what's his name, to say anything about him. I'm just talking purely his position. I want that to be very, very clear. This is nothing about him. It's nothing about his channel. It's nothing about his views. I don't know enough about those things. In this very specific case, I'm talking about this very specific opinion, this very specific topic. So, I will leave it at that. Oh, God. Synopsis. Jamal wants progressive voices, a scantily clad pool boy. I do not want any such thing. I don't want any such thing. Look, I guess my point is, I guess Gardenome is getting to something, and I guess the narrative that I'm trying to get at is we're all of us, for all intents and purposes, are in the same sandbox. Whether you want to talk about Cedar, whether you want to talk about this guy, the progressive voice, if you want to talk about Sane, if you want to, all of these people are, for all intents and purposes, in the same sandbox. I wish there was a capacity for, just wish it was an organization. That's all. Just wish it was more organized. I don't think this kid means poorly. Yeah, I don't think he means poorly. It rubs me the wrong way to have him smear those guys. That's all. So I'll leave it at that. I'm going to check out. Oh, good. Authentium, thank you. All right, I'm going to put the link to the Green Wall debate. Authentium, I haven't watched it yet, and so I'm going to check this out before I even talk about it, because I don't want to talk about it without seeing it. If we can't profoundly overhaul that, then they're winning on this issue. Why does he keep saying sandbox? The citizens have spoken. Litter box. It is. No, I don't mean that. I mean, I'm using it as a euphemism. I just mean all of us are in the same camp. All of us are on the same side. If we're talking about this kind of tribalistic thing, the things that we want to take place in the world, for all intents and purposes, are so far on, and it's so closely aligned with one another, that we're united on this. Even though we may bump heads on how to get to that point. That's all I mean. That's all I mean by sandbox. All right, I'm ending this for real. You guys have a good one. Thank you all for showing up. If I do another one, it will be in the next 20 minutes, but it may not. My wife is going to be pissed off. So I'm potentially ending this now. Thank you all for showing up. If you guys enjoy the content, feel free to share, like, subscribe, and of course, you can always support through Patreon. And everyone who's contributed, thank you very much. You guys are immensely appreciated. Let me get some shout outs. Bill O'Reilly, that shocks the Bill O'Reilly thing trips me out. Bill O'Reilly, Bernie, North Carolina, Bamboo Sticky Rice, M99, I'm not taking off my shirt, 24-hour lib, Pat S, Martha K, Red Economics, Bamboo Sticky Rice, Rob Illinois, and Baby Gerald. Keep up the good work, Jamal. Gotta get going. Wish I could stay. I wish you could have stayed too, Baby Gerald, but thank you. All right, guys. Y'all have a good night if I don't see you again. Thanks.